This boy spent years farming quests with a single goal: to get rich. When he finds a valuable item that transformed into a lil skull, the boy thought, "I found my gold mine. I'm going to turn her into a killing machine." He sends his pet to kill the most harmless monsters, but the lil skull wasn't able to deal even 1 damage. So the MC decides to go back to farming exp alone against high-level knights. When he reaches the boss, he underestimated its strength and was defeated in a second. On the ground, believing it's the end, an explosion occurs. An absurd aura holding a magic shield. The lil skull saved him by blocking the attack. The boy is petrified. How can this lil skull that couldn't kill a single mosquito manage to block such a powerful attack from a boss? That's when the MC realized the lil skull's strength is defense. The duo's adventure begins, taking on impossible quests, with the lil skull up front defending everything and the boy in the back grabbing the loot and running away. No matter the level or the size of the monster, this shield's defense can withstand even a nuclear bomb. There's only one thing in the world that managed to break through the block: a female lil skull. He tanked monsters with supreme force on the shield, but when he saw a lil skull with a skirt, the defense dropped instantly. Let's rewind a bit to see how a timid little pet became so overpowered. This is Yak, the guy who is a total psycho when it comes to farming in games, spending his whole life grinding quests trying to become the next Elon Musk. But in real life, he doesn't even have money to buy a pack of noodles. During a quest, he's out there farming items like any other day. But the moment he opens his inventory, he finds an unusual item that catches his eye. The next day, he goes straight to Pants, the best blacksmith around. Pants grabs the stone, examines every detail, and just tosses it into the furnace. Yak starts freaking out, thinking he just lost his stone. But when Pants pulls it back out, it has transformed into a cube. Yak only wanted to know one thing: is this thing gonna make him rich? He spent the entire day trying to figure out what this cube actually does. After shaking it for way too long, the cube explodes and out comes a tiny lil skull level 1 with unknown status. MC is angry because he could have gotten a strong Pokemon like Mewtwo, but instead he got this tiny skull so weak it might as well be Shuckle. But then he gets an idea. Alright, maybe if I level this thing up, it turns into a Lord of Death. Yak takes the skull into the forest, which is level 20, to kill monsters and level it up. But the skull is so useless that its kick looked more like a gentle pat on the wolf. The wolf stares back with pure rage and kicks back so hard that the skull flies to the other side of the forest. The wolves start stomping on the skull, but Yak jumps in front of them, defeats them all, and saves his pet. He tries again in a level 15 area. The lil skull gets beaten up just the same. He tries at level 10, and the ox simply eats it. He tries with the level 5 fox cubs. Nothing. He can't even kill those. Even the level 1 rabbits were too much for her. Yak is completely frustrated that his pet is literally a plant, doesn't do a damn thing. The boy decides to store the pet in the inventory and go farm XP in a level 150 dungeon to take out his anger. Yak attacks the soldiers alone and exterminates them all until none are left. The next day, Yak signs up to become a mercenary, just so he can set up a base near the monsters. And so his routine begins. 1, 2, 3 days go by, just killing monsters, leveling up and collecting as many items as possible. After days of hunting, Yak stops to rest and checks how much his level went up. When he looks, he realizes it went up much less than expected. Then a notification with a skull icon pops up. He clicks it and discovers that the lil skull is at level 15. Yak is furious. On top of doing nothing in battle, the lil skull also stole half of his XP. Suddenly, the little thing jumps into the bag trying to find something. Finally, it pulls out a shield with a jewel in the center. The item it got is a small shield from the resistance army. Even if it's worth less than a coin, the little thing seems to have liked it. Now it shows up like a tiny Spartan warrior with its little stick and shield. Tired, the protagonist lets the pet play as much as it wants and stop bothering him. The next day, he opens the map to decide where he'll hunt again. Having already wiped out most of the bases, the command post is the only one left. The rebel leader Maximus is probably there and should be hard to beat. His idea is to make sure he doesn't provoke the leader while fighting the soldiers. Suddenly he realizes the little skull still hasn't gone away and wants to bother him again. Out of patience, he puts the pet in the inventory while he finishes his army quest. The recommended level to fight the rebel leader is at least 155, but the MC is way below that. He needs to be careful until he gets the level he needs to face his opponent. Suddenly the man notices him and orders him to identify himself in the field. Seeing he has no choice, he readies the throw of a sharp dagger. Unable to defend himself in time, he takes a critical hit to the face. The MC's plan is to take down his opponent silently. On the next enemy, he manages once again to beat him stealthily with a fatal strike. Lastly, he tangles another soldier up in the trees with a critical blow that takes him down. The leader of the men is bored and tells them to bring him meat and drink. He starts to think something's off when nobody answers in the camp and asks where everyone is. He starts getting ready for an imminent battle, suspicious of some infiltrated enemy. Noticing someone, he lands an opportunistic strike trying to hit the MC. Luckily, even though he hits the hut where the kid was, he manages to dodge in time. Annoyed when he notices the protagonist's presence, he asks who he is. That ruins the boy's plan to leave the area without anyone noticing he was there. When he notices the kid's cape, he realizes he's a mercenary sent by the castle's royal knights. With nowhere to go, his only plan is to try to beat the enemy in a one-on-one fight. The problem is there's a huge level gap between the two, and his opponent has very high HP. In fact, he could try to run far away if he needed to, after all the MC needs to give up in. But, wanting to prove he's a good warrior, he charges the leader with everything he's got. The fight is tougher than it looks, since the man is very skilled and trained. In a moment of weakness, the protagonist takes a powerful kick that sends him flying. Without stopping for even a second, the knight pushes forward, wanting to defeat the boy without mercy. In the distance, the soldiers notice their captain is attacking someone, and they need to gather around to help. Their plan is to surround the command post and tell the archers to attack. That's really bad news for the MC, who's already weakened from fighting the leader. The man claims that lots of adventurers have been defeated by his blade, and that no one under level 140 can lay a hand on him. Wiping his wounds, the hero realizes he underestimated his opponent. Right then, the little skeleton shows up, surprising the MC with his presence. His special skill, called Save Your Master, activates. The archers start moving closer to the battlefield, getting ready to attack. As they watch the fight, all the men stay in position and take aim. With shield in hand, the little skeleton is focused on helping his master. Suddenly, the shield starts charging up with that signature red energy. Now the little guy looks pissed off and determined to take down the rival. The man, confused, doesn't understand what kind of creature that is in front of him. The aura on the two of them feels really different, but the soldier is still stronger. Even so, the little skeleton won't back down, making the enemy think it's all just a joke. Impatient, Maximus dashes at the pet, winding up an attack. Surprisingly, at the crucial moment, the little guy manages to block the blade at the last second. He holds back the impact of the sword with all his strength, even with his fragile arms. The enemy is so powerful that he starts pushing the little skeleton backward. Without letting up, he keeps smashing into the shield, hoping to beat the tiny creature. But he quickly gets annoyed when he realizes every single one of his attacks is being blocked. That shocks the MC, since it's almost impossible to block Maximus's strikes with such a weak shield. Furious, the leader charges his sword with purple mana and dares the little skeleton to block again. From afar, the MC notices the burst of energy and realizes his pet is an amazing tank. Using that chance, he runs in to help his partner and attacks the enemy from behind. He manages to strike with full force against Maximus's tough armor. After the blast, the protagonist praises his pet, acknowledging what he can really do. Still, the man rises from the rubble, hurt but alive, and asks how they dared try to defeat him. Charging forward at high speed, he promises to destroy them both once and for all. That worries the MC because his critical hit should have been enough. As Maximus closes in, the boy tries to defend himself as best he can. At that moment, the little skeleton steps in front, blocking the powerful attack with his shield and red aura. The hero takes advantage of the opening and starts running, setting up a surprise strike. With blood in his eyes, he unleashes a powerful attack, dealing moderate damage. Annoyed, Maximus counterattacks with even more fury. Luckily, the boy has a plan, because he doesn't intend to be beaten in a humiliating way. With his sharp blade, he lands a fatal blow that shatters the armor and drains the enemy's HP. As he breaks apart into energy, Maximus can't understand how he lost to someone so weak. Finally, the companions defeat the camp leader, who vanishes in a bright aura. When he's beaten, he drops a reward, a gold chest. Unfortunately, the archers are still alive in the distance and prepare a new attack. The boy needs to run from the rain of arrows that's coming fast. Like a loyal companion, the little skeleton blocks every shot with his magic shield. That makes the MC realize his pet is an excellent tank, perfect as a distraction. His plan is to run first, leaving the animal behind to hold off the arrows. As he runs, he notices the volleys are still being blocked by the little warrior. Finally, they reach a safe spot to open the chest. Excited, the hero realizes the little skeleton is way more useful than he looked. Praising his pet, he says he never could have imagined his defense was that good. When he opens the chest, he freaks out over the awesome rewards he got. The main one was the sea dragon armor, which is insanely powerful and super rare. On top of that, he got a smoking orb, which is a magic bomb made by the great mage Merlin. Lastly, he got rebel leader Maximus's token, which can be traded for a great reward at the castle. The only problem is he can't use the armor yet, but he will in the future. He thinks it might be smart to keep the magic bomb close and not sell it. Back at the army camp, he asks if the quest is complete. When he sees the NPC is frozen, he gets curious, thinking it's a game bug. In reality, the knight is emotional after realizing the protagonist is super talented and managed to defeat the enemy. He even wanted to keep the boy on his team, but he believes it would be a waste to hold back those skills, orders him to take the token to the kingdom's office in exchange for a valid reward. Some time passes and the boy finally arrives at the trade spot. He notices the place is still as brutal as ever, like a police station. He starts wondering if items like that are actually rare in the game, because if they aren't, their value could drop a lot. He notices a shy girl watching him from far away for a long time. Startling the adventurer, the man says he can't give a reward for the item. That worries the MC, because it looks like they aren't handing out any rewards that day. Like an executioner, the redhead orders the protagonist to step forward and hand over the token. He needs to show proof that he destroyed the Resistance Army division in the mountains. When he puts the token on the table, the redhead is shocked, not believing Maximus was defeated. The protagonist's token is used as an example that only items like that get valid rewards. Impatient, the boy asks if that's enough to finally complete his mission. He gets a bunch of items in exchange for the simple token, including 5,000 gold as a reward, among them the title Rebel Hunter, which adds plus 20 strength to his stats. The redhead introduces himself as Delt, captain of the First Order, and says that if the MC comes back, he'll give him an important mission. One requirement to get that mission is to visit him after getting a class upgrade. As he's leaving, he hears that the girl also brought Maximus's token. Once again, he listens in and realizes the NPCs are repeating the same lines. The MC figures he'll level up faster if he joins a team with the girl. Waiting for the girl to come out of the bathroom, he gets annoyed at how long she's taking. When he approaches her, he suggests they team up so they can get the upgrade quest together. Without giving any answer, the mysterious girl just ignores him and walks away. The girl thought it was flirting, but nothing guarantees it isn't a man in real life. Now, the protagonist decides to farm in a super high-level area. This is the ultimate hunting zone, where the sun never shows up. The place is recommended for levels above 120, but even level 150 players struggle there. Bow-legged, he comments that the arena might be dangerous at his level, but it's the only place where you can get XP fast. Luckily, they're determined to get the class upgrade and come back to receive the important mission soon. The MC's plan is to have his pet distract the enemies while he deals damage. With the little creature in his arms, he asks it to do exactly like it did against the rebel Maximus. While he's talking, Little Skull bolts off like crazy to fight in the arena. With its red energy, it flies over the enemies, drawing everyone's attention. That annoys the MC, who thinks his opponents might be as strong as Maximus. The statue army starts moving toward Little Skull. As they attack, the little creature manages to raise a defensive dome in time. Unfortunately, more and more statues show up to attack, making it harder to keep the protection up. The little guy is really struggling to take so much damage at once with his shield and magic. Still, this is the perfect moment for the protagonist to attack. The strongest statue keeps striking the shield with perfect accuracy. Luckily, right then, the protagonist shows up and slices it in half. By this day, it's already been a week that the two of them have been in the dark world without resting. The good part is they managed to farm a ton of XP from these creatures in the heat of battle. While the MC only gained 2 levels, his pet already climbed to 30 without much trouble. Even wanting to rest, when Little Skull sees an enemy, it charges in without thinking. The enemies look like vampires, which scare the little creature away. It's known that even the workers who built the pyramids got rest. Getting ready to fight, the hero thinks it's just another chance to level up. After a long fight, the boy drinks a potion to recover his HP once again. The team works really well, as long as the little guy keeps the enemies distracted. All of a sudden, the MC is hit with a penalty of 30% less to all physical skills for 6 hours. Worried, he finds out that this penalty will only get worse if he doesn't rest. Finally, he manages to set up a campfire so the boy can rest for a few hours while the effect wears off. The fire's blessings start to kick in, and the boy is slowly healing. All of this happened because the kid didn't want to slow down and kept attacking enemies non-stop. Right now, they've already managed to go really deep into the Dark World's borders, and they think that since they're so strong, they could fight the area boss. This demon's recommended level is 170, but with Little Skull, it's even easier. Leaving the game, the loser needs to look up some info online about how to beat the boss in the dark area. First thing is figuring out where the big boss was last seen last week. On top of that, it looks like it randomly regenerates, which makes the fight way harder from the start. Since a certain update, the Demon King shows up in this area and even an army of strong players can't beat him. Even so, there isn't any news about this enemy on the game's pages. The boy only knows that if he gets really unlucky, he'll end up running into the thing earlier than expected, but he doesn't think it's possible yet. Scully shows up, hopping on top of his master, all excited. But his body was really hot, enough to burn the protagonist when he touches him. Checking on his friend, it looks like his body is basically a fireball. That's how hot it is. The protagonist's guess is that he's got hot air trapped under his skin. Even thinking it's super impressive, he jokes that the campfire is still hotter right now. Somewhere else, in the arena, the demon is seen walking near the smaller statues. Actually, the big beast is getting closer to the tent to figure out who's hiding. There, the protagonist tells his friend to rest, because he's not going to put him in the inventory. He's totally calm, because he knows enemy characters show up on the minimap with a warning beforehand. Getting sleepy, he says he'll rest for a while until the penalty effect wears off. Right then, the giant demon is really pissed, wanting a brutal fight. After sleeping for a long time, he realizes he lost track of the hours. Leaving the cabin, he notices it's way too quiet, which is really weird for a dangerous area like this. All of a sudden, alert messages freak the protagonist out, and he sees the boss right in front of him. He wakes Scully up, saying he needs his help to beat the big boss. This enemy is so huge that just one stomp is enough to take both friends out, if it lands. Angry, it won't stop smashing up the ground with its feet while the protagonist tries to dodge as much as he can. Luckily, the little guy manages to jump out of his companion's arms and use his shield to defend. That worries the MC, because he thinks they don't have a chance to escape this time. Scully and the big beast are staring each other down, nerves on edge, wanting a fight to the death. Right then, the giant winds up a punch that can destroy whoever's in the way. Scully, even though he's weak, manages to withstand the pressure from the enemies, which pisses his opponent off, and it winds up the strongest punch it can. Luckily, the protagonist's plan is to use that opening to attack too. Running in, he uses his speed to jump on top of the demon and hit hard. Pretty much mid-air, he charges his blade with the red aura and aims for the monster's head. Luckily, he lands a powerful hit, dealing heavy damage to his opponent. That's not enough to beat it, and the demon strikes back, using its hands against the MC. With a quick reaction, the boy manages to jump, making the enemy hit itself by accident. Once again, he uses the giant's body to jump and land somewhere safe. When he lands, he's already ready for round 2 and gets set to rush in again. Leaping with his red energy toward the opponent, he goes in for another attack. As he gets ready to deliver another powerful blow, he notices Scully's shield is destroyed. That moment of hesitation makes the enemy counter, throwing the protagonist far away. The impact is enough to deal major damage, slamming the boy to the ground among the rubble. From far away, the little guy gets worried about his master, who's passed out on the rocks. That gives the demon time to crush Scully and end the fight once and for all. Defeated and down on the ground, the MC realizes his friend got eliminated in the middle of the battle. With enemies closing in full of hate, he understands he can't fight alone without support. In desperation, he pulls a bomb from his inventory, wondering if this will fix the situation. His only chance is this, so he throws the item at the enemy, hoping to turn things around. Luckily, the explosion is powerful and manages to stall the opponent for a few moments. Taking advantage of the moment, he readies the rest of the orbs he has in his inventory, intending to defeat the demon. Throwing them all at once, he sets off a huge fire explosion that seriously damages the giant. After buying time, he realizes this is his chance to run and starts sprinting. Unfortunately, the demon, furious, starts in relentless chase. At that moment, it prepares a powerful attack, hurling debris all over the arena. The boy is caught off guard, hit by rocks flying his way and taking damage. After getting defeated, his level drops and he's forced to log out of the game for a while. In real life, he thinks he should have hidden, but his pet rushed in carelessly. Sad, he can't figure out whether Cavarinia is actually a good pet or not. When he looks at the clock, he realizes he hasn't eaten all day and spent way too many hours in VR. While eating fast food, he watches the local news. A sip of soda feels like it heals all the kid's pain, and he instantly cheers up. The commentators start talking about the new pet that got added to the game. They mention the exact pet the protagonist has, obtained through a special quest. The woman reveals that means the animal is insanely rare and valued at $1.2 million. However, only 10 of these were released in the game, and one of them is already owned by a player. The protagonist thinks it's nothing but a strategy to lure players back. He almost chokes, spitting out all his food, when the host says Cavarinia's exact name on the national news. They say this patch uses cutting-edge tech and can act on its own in all kinds of situations. That blows the protagonist away, and he realizes his animal is worth a ton of money in real life. The thought messes with him, because he let something that valuable die on the battlefield earlier. The news also says that whoever owns this animal can contact the station by email. The station plans to broadcast and sponsor live streams from players with this patch. Doing the math, the kid realizes he can lock in $3,000 a month with that contract. On top of that, since he's addicted, he knows he can play even more and get insanely rich. When he uses the computer to sign with the station, he feels like he's going from broke to loaded in a matter of hours. Thinking about Caviriña, he realizes he basically hit the lottery without even noticing. Somewhere, a statue pours a liquid onto the ground, where the protagonist respawns. It's been so long since he last revived that he even forgot this is the area meant for that. In this world, there's a goddess named Sakizna, whose role is to guide the dead to the underworld. The souls that don't go there are revived, which means all the players in this world get another chance. No GM would send players to the underworld, so they made up this story to justify the mechanic. Finally, the protagonist takes Caviriña out of his inventory and thanks him for the help. Holding him by the arm, he still can't believe he's worth as much money as they said. The goddess's statue, impatient, tells the boy to get out of the respawn area. Remembering the fight from earlier, he knows he needs to leave the arena, and only then will he decide what to do. Unfortunately, he realizes they're already deep into the battle, and they'll have a long way back. Suddenly, Caviriña notices something and gets the protagonist's attention. Startled, the little guy starts running, messing up all the boy's plans, since he wanted to head to Tarrant Castle. After a good few minutes of running, they reach the entrance of a cave that looks like the lair of a giant demon. The place is so secret it doesn't even show up on the game map. Like always, the little critter is impatient and charges in without thinking, leaving his master behind. Unfortunately, being greedy, the protagonist can't stop thinking about how his pet is worth a lot of money. Going inside, he realizes the structure is old and worn down. Deeper in, Caviriña keeps banging non-stop on a secret door. As he gets closer, the kid gets a notification. The area called Tomb of Rubraids has been discovered. Looking up the name, he finds out this is the location of the game's legendary demon and reads about its story. He realizes then that Caviriña has the ability to detect ancient ruins or hidden treasures on the map. That gets the protagonist excited, and he decides to go in through the door. In real life, we see a station that specializes in broadcasting matches from this system. A pretty girl notices it's already late and decides to go home. Unfortunately, no player who owns a Caviriña has contacted the station to stream their lives. The team knows one of the players already has the pet, and they're sure sooner or later he'll reach out. But that worries the girl, who's afraid of losing this opportunity to another station. She orders her team to contact the game owners to get more info on who has the pet. Then she decides to go home, since she can log into the game from her personal computer. Apparently, the girl is addicted too, and decides to grind a bit of XP. When she picks her character, she realizes she can only think about this game, like she's obsessed. Surprisingly, we find out this girl is the assassin who ran into the protagonist earlier. Back in the system, we see the boy shocked by something he sees when he opens the door. In the room, we see something big and mysterious in the center. Turns out, it's the horn of the great demon king from earlier. Right away, the little skeleton rushes toward the rare item without thinking twice. While running, he accidentally steps on a trap that triggers a bunch of mechanisms. Bursts of arrows and even a deadly seesaw get launched. In the middle of the chaos, the little guy activates his protective shield, making sure he survives. The protagonist, though, gets annoyed because he knows a smart enemy would never leave the place without traps, but he's surprised to see the little skeleton made it through all of them without taking any damage. Even so, the boy stays cautious and tries his best not to trigger anything. The item is powerful and can be turned into a weapon that works for any kind of user. It's so rare he's never seen any player carrying something made from that material. When he pulls the object out, he wonders if another trap will go off. Luckily, nothing happens, and he decides to store the material in his inventory. Unfortunately, the protagonist realizes it's way too heavy, and he can't put it in his backpack. That means he'll have to carry the object all the way to the castle. The boy is exhausted while carrying the heavy horn on his back. To make it worse, the little skeleton is hyped and singing, like everything's totally fine. Out of energy and strength, he throws the item on the ground because he needs to rest. The weird part is that it's still an item, and even so it can't go into the inventory. Taking the lead, the skeleton lifts the bone like it's paper, annoying the protagonist since he could have helped him the whole time and didn't. Even though he manages to lift it, the little guy's arms are shaking and he drops it, out of strength. Not knowing where the enemy is, he can't keep going like this, risking getting ambushed. When suddenly the protagonist hears a noise that grabs his attention. An adventurer with a cart shows up out of nowhere. This is the perfect opportunity for the protagonist, and he calls out to the traveler. It's explained that the nerd is heading toward the castle too, to sell the items he collected. Excited, the protagonist asks for help carrying his item in the friend's cart. When he looks the object over, the adventurer gets curious when he realizes it's the Demon King's horn. Afraid of getting robbed, the protagonist asks his buddy not to try anything shady, making the boy argue that if he's suspecting that kind of thing, he shouldn't even be asking for help. But the nerd is going to help since he's working as a merchant after reaching max level. Things get worse when he notices the little skeleton in the distance. He's shocked, saying it's the first time he's ever seen the little guy in person. Even if he really wanted to, it's impossible to trade those items inside the game. The MC thinks that if he could trade, he probably would have been robbed by that adventurer a long time ago. In return for the help, the nerd decides to give some item as a reward, choosing a powerful black shield that fits the skeleton perfectly. With that item, his defense and magic stats will be way better from now on. On top of that, the boy knows a route where no enemies show up, keeping the road safe. Night finally comes, and the group manages to get into the city. As he thanks him, the nerd says it's his duty as a pro player to help newbies, which confuses the MC, because he's already really strong and still gets called a newbie. The first thing the boy does is try to store the horn in a bank. Unfortunately, the dwarf says he can't store that item in his warehouse for some reason, explaining that the magical energy is way too strong and could damage the other customers' items nearby. The man says he can't risk damaging other items, even if this one is worth a lot on the market. Desperate, the MC starts begging, because he can't do anything while holding this object, annoying the merchant, who says he'll call the guards if he keeps insisting. While he's thinking about what to do, an adventurer notices the little skeleton in the distance and gets curious. The boy's plan is to take the item to the blacksmith and make some gear so he can get rid of it already. The bald guy is impressed because it's the first time he's seen such a valuable item dragged for miles, but it's said the boy had no choice since the object didn't fit in his inventory and nobody would agree to store it. Being clever, Fance knows the nerd didn't want to store that item because he knew something they didn't. It's explained that the bone is so tough it breaks the wrist of every blacksmith who tries to make something out of it. That's why the adventurer didn't want to steal the item, because he knew how hard it is to use. Knowing he won't be able to make equipment out of it, the old man tries to buy the item in exchange for 1,000,000 coins. Automatically, the boy does the math in his head and realizes that's worth $80,000 in real life. And what's more, no blacksmith in this game would pay that well for an item that's such a pain to handle. Even so, the boy doesn't want to sell because he knows this item is worth way more than just 1,000,000 coins. Seeing his bargaining isn't working, he threatens to look for another blacksmith in town to sell it to. Crying, the blacksmith asks if the expenses will be covered when trying to craft equipment. When asked how much the expenses will cost, the man holds up 5 fingers, but the price is even higher, making the MC think it's 500,000 gold coins. Annoyed, the man yells that it's way more, costing 5,000,000 coins, and that's just a low estimate. It could cost a lot more. In the first round of Who Wants to Be a Billionaire, the question is how much it costs to craft armor with a horn. The protagonist quickly answers that he thinks it's worth 500 gold, but he's wrong, raising the guess more and more. He even says 500,000, but that's not right either. To everyone's surprise, the correct answer is 5,000,000 gold in the game. That shocks the MC because it's only an estimate. It could be much more. Trying to lock in the sale, the blacksmith says nobody else will agree to buy this item for more than it's worth. Even if he lists it online, there's a 10% commission on every transaction. The boy starts to feel like his friend is trying to trick him to get the item cheaper. That annoys the man, who considers himself the best blacksmith in the castle, working only with the best materials. He says he'll make the money spent on the items worth it. Looking on the site, he realizes the price of this horn still isn't on the markets, being traded for almost 5,000,000 gold. The boy's offer is to sell the item at a discount, going down to 4,000,000. After some haggling, the price drops to 3.9 million. But that amount is still way too high for the old man to pay, so he gives up on buying the object. After having his sale refused, the boy goes to look somewhere else, but is suddenly grabbed. Seeing he has nowhere to run, the man says he can pay up to 2 million because his friend needs money to live. Thinking it over, the boy knows this item costs a lot, but even so, the blacksmith will still profit a ton. Noticing he was stopped when he tried to leave, he's sure the object is worth many millions. Right away, the protagonist decides he needs armor and will pay all the crafting expenses. But the old man doesn't believe the boy has that much money saved up, crushing his dreams. The boy argues that he was told it was possible to craft armor using the demon's material, but the price given only covers the cost to process the material, and everything else still has to be paid. So the boy says he'll pay 7,000,000 gold for the hard work. But there's a condition. The condition is that he doesn't have all that money to pay at once, so he'll pay in installments with his in-game cards. He explains that one way or another, the blacksmith will end up getting 7,000,000 by the end of the payments. The idea works, and the old man thinks the deal isn't that bad and ends up accepting. but the boy sets another condition. He needs to farm more XP and he needs it fast. The only problem is his sword is really broken and he needs a new one, like the one on the rack. At least the man agrees because he'll get paid the faster the boy can farm. To make it official, he puts a contract on the table that will calculate the monthly cost. The thing is so long it has more than 10 clauses to read. Without thinking, the boy signs without reading. Now, every month he'll have to transfer 30% of his gold to his blacksmith friend. Handing over the promised sword, he wishes his buddy good luck in the arenas. His sword is from a demigod and is very old, with a mysterious aura. However, he still needs to move the heavy horn to a safe place, when he's surprised to notice a small pet in the corner. He says he's always wanted to give these little guys a tight hug. A double stroke of luck makes the old man curious to figure out who the protagonist really is. Hearing that the boy considers himself lucky, the man says that's fate. Recently, a thief tried to rob his forge, which makes him think the best place to keep watch is his own house. It's explained that, the day before, a killer player tried to break in at night. That annoys the MC, because the freedom in this world makes people go crazy. All of a sudden, the hottie shows up wanting to talk about what she did. When she opens the door, she gets scared when she sees the main character holding the treasure. On the TV show, the girl says the boy looked like a weird playboy. In the game, the blacksmith asks if Heron knows he'll lose his rebel title because of what happened. Taking off her mask, the girl says she came there to apologize for causing this problem. In return, seriously, the girl says she can take out someone else. As he leaves and waits outside, the boy walks past the player, who gives him a weird feeling. When she looks at the MC, she's totally shocked when she notices the little skull guy. While his buddy follows him, the main character has a really bad feeling about it. Soon we see a house in the middle of the forest, where there's a straw doll. The main character shows up with a bone, thinking this is the perfect place to chill. Next to him, the girl is holding the pet in her arms. The old man says he spent his whole life on the battlefield, and used up his money to live humbly, alone. As he walks, the boy wonders why the girl is still following him. But it's said she'd do anything to get forgiven for her mistakes. Tired of talking, the man asks everyone to come into his simple house. In the MC's world, this game feels so real that the house is like it's actually real. Putting the item on the table, he thinks the freedom in this game is amazing. Then he gets a few item choices. To deal with this heavy object, you'd need the power of the heavens and rare ingredients. The old man explains that if you don't have those items when crafting it, the user would be taken over by the armor's power, and that's why it costs so much and takes a long time to polish. The place needed for the crafting belongs to the biggest guild on the continent, which makes it hard to find someone who can do the job. Luckily, the man is really important there, and if they mention his name, they'll find the right person. But it's a touchy subject to mention his name to people in the Union. Still around the castle, the man wonders how he's going to find the right merchant's guild. Unfortunately, the only thing the girl knows is that the guild owner is named Soul. She tries to annoy the main character, saying the boy doesn't have any friends in real life. Suddenly, an accident happens and bandits start getting chased. The guy who got robbed was the nerd from earlier, who's now lying on the ground. Wanting to return the favor he got, the main character tries to get closer to help his friend. When he gets there, it's explained that in the middle of his trade mission, the boy ran into NPCs who robbed him. Even though he's max level, most of his experience is in trading and commerce. To the NPC's surprise, the stolen items belong to the Soul Merchants Guild. After all, his mission was to deliver a treasure from a faraway village. Taking advantage of the moment, the main character says he can help with the mission and get the items back. Together with his buddy, the duo says they'll solve the problem. Those guys' base is in the desert, and they belong to a bandit group called Tritica. Their levels are pretty high, and it'd be hard to fight a whole guild of criminals. Still, with help from his pet, the main character doesn't see it as a problem and decides to act. He hands a map to his savior, explaining that when he reads it, it'll show the bandit's location marked. The average level in that area is high, and the place is full of sorcerers and demonic creatures. Heading toward the target, the boy says goodbye to his buddy. The girl keeps following him all the way to the desert region. In the middle of the trip, he realizes he should have rented a camel so he wouldn't have to walk with so much trouble. Annoyed, the girl says they should have hired someone who really knew those sands and rented a carriage. Once again, she calls the main character a loser to get under his skin. Smartly, the boy points out the location of the right base. Even with so many soldiers up ahead, the duo is ready to fight. In real life, the girl is secretly recording this whole scene. On her phone, a call comes in from someone important at her company. Her employee asks why the girl, as the president, still isn't working. Looking out the window, she realizes it's already morning and she has an appointment set with a famous player. Luckily, the girl says she found the little skull guy's owner inside the system. but her disguise will be blown if more people get close. Back in the game, the man tells his friend to move quietly and locate the items. When he sees she doesn't answer, he starts thinking his friend is AFK. When she gets back from the call, the girl asks what the infiltration plan is. The plan is to sneak in, find the objects, and mark them on the minimap. Once the route is clear, they can grab a carriage and escape. But the girl thinks these tasks are way too simple and poorly thought out. Cleverly, she suggests finding the items with help from her buddy. Without waiting, her friend takes a leap of faith, leaving her behind. Before he falls, he thinks he's curious to find out who the masked girl is in real life. At the cave entrance, the girl hides so the guards won't see her. This is the first time the MC watches an assassin going all out in stealth mode. One quick move, blade in hand, is enough to take down two clueless guys. With two critical hits, the girl clears a path into the cave. To stay unnoticed, she drags the enemy's bodies into the bushes. The rustling grass catches the attention of two others, who go check it out. Since they're NPCs, they soon forget what they were doing, giving the girl a chance to slip away. Peeking through a crack, she notices how the enemies are set up around the crates. Looking closer, she starts to hear their conversations. With her stealth skill, she walks along the top of the wall without any guards spotting her. When she drops down on the other side, she's stunned to see this gang's treasure. Just like planned, she marks the location on the team's minimap. Since she's weaker than the enemies, her plan is to knock them out and run. As always, the little skull guy doesn't wait and charges in, dying to fight. Obviously, that gets the guards' attention, and they're caught off guard by the little guy holding the shield. Taking the chance, the girl decides to attack from behind and jumps. With a powerful strike, she pulls off a dash that sends the enemies flying back. When he hits the ground, the protagonist is shocked by that insanely strong ability from the little critter. On the TV show, the protagonist says kids grow up really fast, and he had no idea how strong his boy was. The only problem is he also had no idea how much damage that would cause later. On the battlefield, Skull is already holding his shield, ready to throw down. The injured bandits are scared, not understanding what hit them. The protagonist gets annoyed when he realizes none of the enemies took any damage. As he pushes forward, he sees his kid getting beaten up by the guards. To save the boy, he readies his new powerful sword and aims for a critical hit. With a stylish jump, he causes an explosion. The noise is so loud it draws the attention of every guard inside the cave. That's actually great for the thief, because now she knows where the items are stacked. The problem is that when she tries to escape, she's spotted by a crowd of bandits armed with blades. Outside, the protagonist keeps pushing forward, looking for more XP. When he finds another group of enemies, he lines up his sure-hit attack. There, he uses the Wind Hurricane skill and takes them all out. That's the best strategy, since he can't beat them with a single hit. Suddenly, the little boy jumps into the arena, ready to defend his master. In the middle of the soldiers, he creates a protective dome, blasting them away. After throwing everyone out, he realizes this is the perfect chance to run after the prize. Meanwhile, the assassin gets ready for a brutal fight against multiple opponents. When the men come running in, the girl pulls a grenade from her inventory. Throwing it on the ground, she creates a smokescreen that blinds the bandits. Knife in hand, she starts taking them down one by one, strategically. When the dust settles, all the enemies are down, totally humiliated. Running through the corridors, she's sure the treasure must be really close. Finally, she gets to the right spot, but she can't find the cart. While she's thinking, a huge fat bandit shows up to fight. Even though he's fat, he's strong enough to leap and wind up a powerful attack. The assassin manages to block in time, but she still gets thrown back by the explosion. The impact is so strong it leaves her dazed as she lands on a pile of coins. The big guy asks who dares try to steal inside his base. With nowhere to run, the boy lies, saying he wasn't trying to steal because he knows he couldn't beat the opponent. To make the plan even worse, the little skull guy shows up and hits the boss in the leg. Angry, the brute kicks and sends the little guy flying really far too. Even so, the little skull guy manages to get back up, which only makes the fat guy even more furious. The protagonist realizes this is the perfect chance to run while his boy is getting beat up, but he's way too curious and decides to watch the fight from the sidelines. The man tries to strike first, but the blow is blocked by Skull's quick shield. The little guy fires back, unleashing a burst of energy at the giant. This time, the one getting launched back is the fat guy. Even so, he doesn't take any damage and moves in again to fight. He attacks Skull with heavy hits, several times in a row. Knowing the fight won't end, the protagonist grabs his sword and charges in to face the boss. Unfortunately, right as he goes to attack, he ends up getting spotted. Luckily, someone shows up with the cart, saving the boy from a sure loss. It's revealed that the one who showed up on the cart was the assassin, saving the day. Quickly, she knocks the big boss to the ground, buying time to escape. However, the protagonist still needs to get the merchant's items to finish the mission. This time the fat guy is even more pissed off and doesn't want to let anyone escape his territory. The kid tries to warn him, but the MC ignores it while stacking the boxes. Even the assassin notices and warns her teammate in time to dodge. Unfortunately, the fat guy was faster and lands a powerful hit on the man's back. The impact is so strong it throws him into the wall, knocking the coins onto the ground. As he gets up, he realizes his enemy is no joke, and he's down to half health after a single hit. Seeing his master hurt and in danger, Skull goes on alert. Furious, he drags his weapon along the ground, warning that nobody is getting out of the cave alive. Right then, the kid runs in to jump in the middle and save the day again. Luckily, at the moment of the attack, he manages to block with his tiny shield, annoying the opponent. His protective dome was so on point that it made the man fall backward from the swing of the weapon. This happens several times until the MC jokes that his enemy must be mad about getting knocked back. But the situation is still desperate, because the assassin asks why they're standing around and why the kid isn't doing anything. Using the time he bought with Little Skull, the protagonist starts loading the items onto the cart again. Finally, after a while, he calls his pet so they can get out fast. When everyone gets into the cart, the girl is told and gets the order to move forward. The animals are so fast it's hard for the two friends to hold on, since they don't have seatbelts. Spawning a horn, the fat guy says he won't let anyone get away this time. When he blows the horn, the others don't get what kind of sound that is. Pretty sharp, the girl realizes that sound is to call reinforcements for the fight. The complicated way she acts starts to annoy the MC, since his friend is really annoying. Skillfully, she uses the whip to hit the enemies ahead and clear the escape route. On top of that, with the cart and the horses, she runs the men over, taking them out once and for all. After a few minutes of running, they manage to get out of the cave and see daylight. Leaving the arena, the MC's plan is to keep going until they're back at the castle. Unfortunately, the soldiers are closing in, riding fast camels. Following orders, the bandits move closer and closer to the cart. That worries the protagonist, who warns that they're being followed. Since he's a close combat fighter, he doesn't have skills to hit enemies from far away. After looking for a bit, he finds a box of dynamite that can save them from this situation. Little Skull can also work as a lighter and lights the first stick of dynamite. Using the box, the group starts throwing a barrage of bombs at the camels. In an instant, the explosions kick sand everywhere and knock all the men down. Seeing the explosions, the MC is surprised by how strong the dynamite is. Even so, the leader is still alive and orders them to keep chasing. The girl asks them to hold on a little longer, since they're almost at the safe destination. Passing through the gates, people celebrate the protagonist's return since he defeated the rebels. The guards, in a really weird way, think the kid is really handsome. That happens because his fame went up after the last mission and the NPC lines changed. The bandits have to stop the chase since they can't enter the city. The most annoying part is that these men got robbed by players who weren't even high level. Really pissed off, the fat guy says he'll do whatever it takes to get his revenge back. Finally resting, the MC thought that would be his last day alive. The girl believed they'd be able to beat everyone because she trusted the plan. Actually, the kid thought he could win if he landed critical hits on the enemies. Running like crazy, the merchant lifts his friend up, happy to get the goods back. Crying, he says he was really worried, thinking they wouldn't make it. The guild suspected the man was plotting something to steal and ended up arresting him. The only way to pay him back is by paying the protagonist a nice amount of gold. In the distance, someone says they like the way the protagonist thinks. A noble walks up, saying money is what makes the world go round. This NPC owns the biggest merchants guild in the game. The first rule of business is not trusting anyone, even if you've worked with the same person a lot. Even so, he claims he locked the boy up to keep him safe until the items were returned. Luckily, the boy says he brought all the right items and asks them to take a look. The lazy guy asks his employee to check the goods. Collecting the items, the man is surprised to see the correct amount was recovered with no mistakes. Even so, part of the silk was ruined, lowering the reward. The boy gets annoyed because they risked their lives to bring it back and they're still getting a low payout. Scared, the nerd says it's fine, because they'll get paid either way. Handing over a treasure chest, the noble says he added a bonus as a thank you. When the protagonist tries to complain, the bodyguard threatens him with his sword. But what the boy really wants is to get materials for the blacksmith to forge his armor. Reading the notes, the noble says he'll get the material as a favor to the blacksmith. That surprises the boy, because he didn't know his buddy had connections. The noble explains that finding those items will take time and recommends the protagonist reach level 150 first. He says that because once the pair gets to the port near the castle, they'll be able to move forward. Opening the chest, the nerd says he'll give 40% of the reward to the protagonist because of the help. The kid's prize is huge, 3 gold bars. As he leaves, the merchant thanks them again and invites them out for drinks next week. Drooling with happiness, the protagonist realizes he just made a whole month's pay from this quest. He reassures his friend, promising to pay her the share she deserves. Suddenly, he notices a weird item, and when he clicks it, a red light blinds him. The item he got is a vampire shield, found on the day of the red moon. The protagonist knows his place and says that shield works better with his friend. On the show, they say the little skull guy always gets things first, both XP and items. In fact, he gets irritated remembering all the XP points he lost while farming. With a new item, the little guy gets insanely excited and happy. The plan now is to sleep and, the next day, farm as much as possible to raise their level. The girl has the same plan and suggests forming a team to hunt later. Logging out of the game, he adds the girl to his friends list so they can play together. Finally, outside the game, the girl calls her company's manager. She says she's sending the video she recorded of Skull earlier. On the other end of the line, the man is impressed by how many hours were recorded. Since they don't have the protagonist's permission, they still can't air it on TV. If they post the first Skull news online, they'll get tons of views. However, they can't put the video online because they're only doing a behavior study of the pet. He stresses that they need to produce content about it if they want to make real money. The location now is the city's port, located around the castle. The boy is excited because it's his first time in this part of the map. The city looks like it's run by a group of people with flags everywhere. The ones in charge of this city are the Sun Merchants Guild. Nobody knows what kind of business these people do, just that they've got the game's economy in the palm of their hand. Logging in, the girl explains that this guild was created by a legendary player. After all, trading items is a big part of this game, and there's its own economy system. Normally, players farm resources and sell them on the market, then those materials create other items, completing supply and demand. If the economy system collapses because of addicted players, that's on the company. That's why, regularly, the game owners need to balance the supply and demand of supplies. Players can farm resources and sell them, but it's this guild that controls all of it. In short, no matter where the resources go, the final destination is this guild's bank. The girl explains that if there are supplies in high quantity, the merchants will buy them and store them. As soon as big demand hits, they'll release those items onto the market and prevent inflation. The girl knows all this because she read it on internet forums. There's a good chance the items requested earlier are already stored in the warehouses. That means the noble will only want to hand the supplies over to the protagonist when he's at the right level. Or rather, she explains she was looking around the port to understand what's so important about this guild. But the girl wasn't trying to lecture him, she was just curious to understand what kind of armor Horn is going to make. The little skull is holding both their hands like they're his parents while they talk. Night finally falls, and people keep walking toward their destination. They've been walking for so long that the protagonist starts to suspect there isn't any hunting zone around here. Right at this moment, they notice a sign asking them to approach this dangerous area with caution. The recommended level for this place is 170, but with strategy, it's possible to win. The one who gives them this quest is a count who's losing his business because of the animals. The boy gets excited when he finds out he'll be paid 10 gold coins for each mob defeated. The problem is that just one attack is enough to take anyone down. Afraid to hunt at night, the boy suggests setting up camp and doing it the next day. The girl is shocked when she realizes her friend has a different hunting method than hers. With the tent set up, the team gathers around a lit campfire. Trying to make friends, the boy asks how old his friend is in real life. Seeing it was an insensitive question, he tries to find out the girl's name. Once again, he realizes he was being too intrusive and gives up, going to sleep. Before letting the guy leave, the girl says she only needs to be called Heron. Then she adds that they can talk about that real-life stuff later. That scares the boy because of how suddenly serious she sounds. Heading to sleep, he says he needs to rest so he can fight as best as he can the next day. But some time passes, and even the little kid is getting tired. This is the perfect moment for the girl to start recording her research. The next day arrives, and the protagonist is already equipped with all the blessings he needs. The plan is to start walking and hunt every enemy along the way. Back at the reference point, the boy gets pumped for the start of the hunt. The funny thing is, the rest of the team isn't that pumped. Walking through the forest, the protagonist notices there are a lot of trees around. The girl explains they should speak quietly so they don't wake up the living things. That advice is useless because the tree next to them notices their presence. Skull and his team freak out as the trees darken the whole area, even though it's morning. Ents might be trees, but they don't like sunlight because it dries out their roots. While the girl is talking, tree branches start sliding through the ground slowly, and they get ready to land a powerful whip attack on the girl's back. At the last second, the boy tells her to duck and pulls his sword from his inventory. managing to cut the branches at the last minute. The girl doesn't understand what attacked her when she sees it fall to the ground. Assassins have a passive detection skill, but apparently it didn't trigger. If all the trees in the forest are enemies, this is going to get really ugly. After all, there's an absurd number of creatures in this place. Even the little skull himself is getting attacked by branches that yank his leg. It happens so fast it pulls the little guy and leaves him upside down. Once again, the protagonist saves the moment by cutting the roots. So the kid doesn't hit the ground, he activates his skill quickly, creating a firestorm and cutting all the roots around him. Finally, he manages to cut the branch that was holding the little guy, saving him. As he falls, the protagonist jumps to catch the pet in midair, managing to get the boy into his arms before he fatally hits the ground. Like a father and son, they hug, happy to be alive for one more day. The girl gets annoyed because this isn't time for nonsense and they need to fight right now. Getting up, the duo is ready for another round of blows. Right away, the protagonist starts cutting more and more roots along the way, thinking this is way easier than he first thought. Then the girl reminds her team that these trees aren't made of just branches and roots. Suddenly, one of the enemies starts tearing itself free from the ground and charging on its legs. At the last second, the duo manages to dodge the attack that would be fatal at this level. Right away, the hero jumps, winding up a powerful attack against the tree in front of him. The name of the skill he's using is Wind Burst, managing to leave only a very shallow cut on the enemy's trunk. This is the perfect chance for the tree to slam the protagonist to the ground, pinning his sword to his chest. Pulling the blade out of the trunk, it says it won't forgive anyone who's disturbing the forest. When the sword is thrown toward the MC, the little skull moves into the culprit. Once again, the beast tries to land a powerful attack, but it's blocked by the red protection shield. Kavira's reputation is so huge that even the trees in the forest know his name. Luckily, the assassin jumps up onto the beast's branches, getting an attack ready. These enemies have strong bodies, but because they're slow, they end up being the perfect target for critical hits. Unleashing a flurry of attacks, she activates her ultimate destruction skill. Standing on the tree, the boy is impressed by his teammate's skill. Looking at the enemy's HP, he realizes its life is being drained fast. The girl, with zero mercy, keeps hitting with all her strength and precision. Finally, she sets off an explosion in the area, at last defeating the trunk. That move was insanely cool, and the protagonist celebrates. But he gets worried when he realizes the forest is full of enemies and he doesn't know how to take them all out. Right then, a few more trees start rising out of the ground and moving toward the group. Pulling her blade from her inventory, the assassin jokes that there's no time to rest. This time, the trunk is surprised to see Kaverina right in front of it, which annoys the MC, because everyone seems to be after his beloved pet. Still, the beast explains it doesn't want anything crazy and just needs warm sun and water to quench its thirst. It says Kavira is a noble creature that can absorb countless energy from nature. And, surprising the MC, it says maybe he can help it with something. The count who lives near the mountain cut down most of these trees without permission, out of greed. On top of that, he's trying to attract tourists by creating balloon trees with magic. As soon as they started fighting back, the man hired natural enemies and rewarded players to wipe out the trees. They say blood fairies are greedy and love messing around with other enemies' blood. The entity says that if they defeat the count, they'll combine their powers and boost Kavira's energy, which annoys the MC because once again the pet is the only one getting rewards. But it's thanks to him that they can fight high-level enemies without losing. Pointing out the way to the target, the entity wishes Mother Nature will protect the boys on their journey. As a sign of trust, it grants the team a few abilities. Checking the stats, the protagonist realizes he got some really powerful buffs. So the group heads toward the balloon forest to take out the count. On the way, the MC wonders if they can really trust these entities. But these beasts are divine creatures that represent nature, and if they had evil intentions, they wouldn't have helped them. Honestly, the protagonist just wants to level up a bit and get his reward at the end. Calmly, he says they need to get there soon to find some clue. Suddenly, the three of them get startled by something ahead. The forest is basically clear-cut, a really bad situation for the trees. Near the castle, you can see a massive forest of magical balloons. The group needs to hurry since they have to get there before the sun goes down. After walking for a while, they finally arrive at the place, which looks like an amusement park. Looking around, they realize it's bigger than they expected, and they need to move fast. Among the balloons, you can see some weird little creatures that don't seem hostile. The ecosystem here is really unique and unlike anything in nature. Suddenly, one of the animals that was sucking on a balloon explodes, getting taken out. These balloons aren't filled with air, but seem to contain an acidic substance inside. It's crazy to think the Count wants to turn this place into a park for tourists. Like a good dad, the MC stops Kavera from touching the substance, which makes the little guy start crying. Impatient, the girl says they don't have the luxury of wasting time talking. Looking ahead, she notices some evil creatures came over to say hi. Putting the pet on the ground, the MC realizes the recommended level for this area is high. Luckily, with a plan, they can use the balloons to their advantage and damage the opponents. Focused, the hero says he'll try to deal as much damage as possible on his own. As soon as the fight starts, the little one is ordered to push forward and attack. With his shield, he runs as fast as he can. The moment the insects charge in, the protagonist gets his chance to attack, taking advantage of the distraction. With a clean hit, he manages to strike all 3 enemies at the same time, alongside his teammate. From behind, the assassin moves in, trying to land a hidden critical hit. Her plan was to pop a bunch of balloons and let the acidic liquid drip onto the beetles. The scene is disgusting because the enemies start melting right in front of the group. Right then, an even bigger danger shows up: the blood fairies. Right away, the monsters start throwing fireballs, forcing the MC to run while holding his kid. With things getting tense, Skull has to do his job and use his strongest magic. Getting ready for a tough fight, the MC jokes that it's time to make some money. The first fairy moves in and fires a powerful fireball at her opponent. Luckily, the boy is trained to dodge attacks like that and manages to save himself. He then winds up a powerful attack to hit back hard. Next, he uses his skill called Omega Smash, which causes a massive explosion. The blast is so intense it throws most of the fairies back, dealing heavy damage. From a distance, the girl watches the battle, impressed by her teammate's strength. As he pushes forward, the MC's plan is to land several weak hits, and at the end, one charged, devastating blow. When the fairies get close, the girl takes the chance to pop more acid balloons. The team works really well together, efficiently taking down both the insects and the fairies. After a few hours of fighting, the group sets up a campfire to rest. And with that, one of the protagonist's passive skills goes up to level 147. The girl congratulates him and asks why Skull has been sleeping so much. The boy can't answer, since his friend used to go for hours without needing sleep. The girl suspects the pet might be suffering from some kind of negative status effect in his body. When he checks his kid's status, the protagonist realizes he's already reached level 70 and can evolve to the next stage. When he presses the evolve button, Little Skull suddenly wakes up, freaking out the whole team. He starts desperately looking around for something nearby. When he finds his usual shield, he starts chewing on the metal like it's food. The team moves closer, trying to figure out what's going on with Skull, who starts trembling. Suddenly, the little guy starts floating, spreading a glowing energy around the arena. The light is so strong it blinds the team, while the pet goes through his transformation. Little Skull's body seems to come apart for some reason. After the evolution process, he comes back wearing full armor and clearly stronger. The MC jokes that his kid is now way cooler, even though he's still got the same personality as before. Mischievously, the girl records the whole thing to post later at the company. Even after evolving, Skull is still the same height as before. In the background, a mysterious figure watches the whole transformation. Hidden, the little guy is way stronger than before, and now he has damage-dealing abilities. Before, he could only distract enemies and acted as the team's tank, but now there's a high chance he'll reflect all the damage back at the attacker. The MC thinks this passive effect was gained after his kid ate the vampire shield. After all, that shield's passive skill was reflecting 70% of the damage. Apparently, that shield has become a basic weapon for this new version of Skull, which means that, even if it takes a while, the pet will be able to start hunting on his own in the future. As long as he fights someone close to his level, the little guy can deal high damage to his opponents. Kissing his kid, the hero realizes he's a lot more useful than he thought. Suddenly, the assassin throws her dagger toward a tree, startling the protagonist. The strike was so strong it split the trunk in half with ease. Annoyed, the girl demands that the stalker show himself immediately. When the man in the suit appears, the girl asks why he was spying. Introducing himself, the man says he's the Count's butler, and he's got a really funny name. The reason for his visit is to personally deliver a request from the Count, an offer you can't refuse. The team ends up accepting and heads toward the noble's mansion. While eating, the man asks why the team destroyed his balloon theme park. The team explains they did it to level up quickly. Curious, the Count asks what the logs were saying, because he thinks they lied about what they did. Irritated, the MC thinks it's messed up to turn the trees into an amusement park. Still, it's true the team went into the forest to defeat the logs that were guarding it. The noble claims the world is ruled by survival of the strongest. On top of that, he says what runs everything is the economy and money. He believes it's a universal law. The strong hold power over the weak and use their services. He explains those trees used to be powerful creatures in the past, but now they're weak and useless. So he asks if there's really any good reason to hand his business over to beings that old. In a straight-up rude way, the killer answers that the noble is even more of an idiot than he looks. Greedy, the man says he'll give anything they need in exchange for the team's little skull pet. Actually, he offers the mansion and the balloon park in exchange for such a rare pet. And he adds that he could even give all the money in the world, if the team wanted. The boy gets lost in thought at the idea of becoming the richest player on the server. Even though the offer sounds tempting, the kid starts crying, scared of being taken away. Being the richest person on the server would also mean being one of the richest in real life. But, unfortunately for the Count, the MC turns down his tempting proposal, which pisses him off. First of all, he explains that he can't sell or transfer his son to anyone else. Second, he believes his son is worth way more than any amount of money. The fat guy gets mad when he realizes the kid is way smarter than he looks. On top of that, he knows the trees will help Skull get stronger, making him even more valuable. When the offer is refused, the noble calls in soldiers to take down the team and get what he wants. Surrounded by warriors, the heroes have to fight so they don't get their gear and pets stolen. Everyone gets ready for the fight as the Count shows his true greedy face. His first order is for the soldiers to move in and defeat the team as fast as possible. The assassin manages to take out the first soldier easily with a stealth attack from behind. Next, the protagonist does the same with his sword, using his combo of weak hits followed by a charged strike. The girl keeps landing a bunch of attacks on her enemies, dealing heavy damage. Even so, the Count still has an army of soldiers that keeps pushing forward. Seeing his men get beaten so easily, the noble gets really scared of how strong his enemies are. After taking down the soldiers, the assassin heads straight for the main target. Right as she's about to land a powerful blow, the butler steps in front and blocks the attack. This guy is way more skilled than he looks, managing to defend against every hit. Looking like a martial artist, he winds up a powerful punch toward the girl. Luckily, the girl is skilled and manages to dodge with acrobatics. The strike she tried to land was a special assassin skill, something that's not easy to block. With his hand, the butler summons a tiger-like energy, boosting his power even more. The girl starts running and jumps, trying to throw the enemy off with her speed. Even so, the butler is trained and keeps up with her with his eyes. He manages to dodge her charged attack in time and already gets ready to counter. This time, the old man lands a hit to the girl's torso, and she screams in pain. The impact was so strong it sent her flying. Walking up, the butler says he won't allow any destruction in his master's mansion. Cleverly, the girl notices he's got something hidden up his sleeves. Pulling out 2 hidden swords, the man praises his opponent's sharp eye. On the other side of the arena, the protagonist is dodging a soldier with an axe. Even he starts using martial arts and throws a powerful kick right into the warrior's face. As he takes down more and more opponents, he realizes he can't figure out the fight's level. The MC's guess is that the level is high, since these soldiers managed to beat the trees. More soldiers show up, saying they're not just going to stand around while their comrades fall. That's why the protagonist hates human enemies. Their AI is really good. With a coordinated attack, 4 soldiers rush the hero at the same time. This is the moment for the pet to show its new skills and protect its master. Jumping into the middle of the brawl, the little guy fights all 4 at once and still holds his ground. The protagonist notices the vampire shield effect is draining the opponent's life. That's the opening he needed to use his ultimate skill and wipe them all out at once. With a powerful dash, he knocks the enemies back, dealing insane damage. The skill was so intense it blew up the room, scattering debris everywhere. That pisses off the noble, who realizes his house is ruined forever. The girl thinks they should have pulled the fight outside if they didn't want to lose the mansion. After getting chewed out, the old man comes back angry, determined to make sure they don't cause any more trouble. At this moment, the girl figures her opponent is going to use a boxing and jujitsu combo while wielding the swords. Taking any kind of punch with those blades would be fatal. To avoid getting hit in a straight-up fight, she needs to keep her distance while attacking. As the old man moves in, the girl plans her next steps and manages to dodge a dead-on strike at the very last second. As you dodge each attack, you realize your enemy is fast and skilled. Even though you manage to evade, you get hit by the blade in the stomach. Holding the wound, you realize that if you hadn't backed off, the attack would have been fatal. Confident, the butler knows his opponent has low HP because of the assassin class. The girl gets worried because she understands that if she isn't careful, she could die in this fight. Once again, the old man charges in, and he knows that if he lands 3 hits, he'll win for good. Luckily, right then, Little Skull steps in front of the attack, activating his protective dome. The impact throws the butler backward, leaving him confused when he realizes the pet is in the fight. Now it's the protagonist's turn to take over, drawing the opponent's attention. He says that hitting a woman is really rude for true knights. Annoyed at being called Mr. Vitamins, the old man won't accept being insulted by anyone. That nickname came about because the butler's name is really funny. Activating his stance, the old man decides he won't forgive the protagonist for the taunting. The boy is at a disadvantage since he's using a big sword against a faster enemy. Normally, big sword users are slow and focused on brute strength, while his opponent has high agility and strength in the fight. Luckily, the butler's defense is low, balancing the fight within the game. In other words, the MC's strategy is to find an opening to land a hit. As the old man closes in, Skull steps in front and blocks a powerful attack. The attack the butler defended is the perfect chance for the protagonist to strike back with all his strength. With a clean hit to the chest, the MC sends the enemy flying really far. That attack was so powerful it defeated the man, throwing him out of the mansion. Everyone is surprised because they didn't know the protagonist had such insane strength. The boy says it was only possible thanks to his son's help during the fight. Strength is the biggest advantage of using big swords, and they're extremely effective against NPCs. Now that they've defeated all the opponents, the boy wants to have a talk with the noble. The fight isn't over. The fat guy calls in more soldiers who enter the room and surround the MC. However, the boy asks if the count knows what kind of situation he's in. At that moment, the assassin appears from behind and presses her dagger dangerously against the man's neck. The protagonist argues that no matter how many soldiers he has, it won't be enough to defeat them. Stepping closer, he orders him to hand over full control of the properties and cancel the hunt against the trees. The boy wants to wipe out all the monsters and restore the balloon forest back to normal. However, if the count refuses the offer, he'll be eliminated without mercy. The room goes silent because the noble seems to hesitate about cooperating. Scared, he agrees to the terms and accepts canceling all hunts in the forest. Smiling, the protagonist warns that if the man shows up again, he'll be beaten again. Now that they've reached an agreement, the team leaves, leaving the soldiers behind. In control of the situation, the MC orders the men to get out of his way. As he leaves, the protagonist says they should have listened when they still had a chance to walk away alive. But the fat guy stays furious, feeding his desire for revenge against them. Back in the forest, the team talks with the tree, which already knows the news. The boy explains he let the count live because they wouldn't be able to clear the whole balloon forest on their own. Then he reveals he made the fat guy promise to fix everything himself with his own money. On top of that, the noble will be responsible for removing all the acidic substances from the balloon so they won't hurt anyone anymore. The tree understands the circumstances and finally decides to grant the team their rewards. Then, the entity makes the little one float with its ancient magical powers. Actually, it's gifting the little boy the power to unlock his body's full potential. Also, a fortune status will be guaranteed too, making nature help him wherever he goes. The MC gets annoyed because he realizes that, once again, his son gets stronger while he doesn't get any benefits at all. The tree explains that if Skull becomes more powerful, that also benefits the whole team. Even so, the protagonist won't stop complaining, forcing the tree to grant them a forest blessing as a passive effect. That cheers up the MC, who finally feels rewarded for the mission. Finishing the mission, the team leaves and thanks them for the benefits they gained. The trees wonder if giving the boy a bunch of benefits is unfair to the other players on the server. The boy is way more excited now after getting stronger, but if he stops playing the game, it'll create management and marketing problems. The trees say it's really hard to look like an NPC because it feels like you've got a mask on your head. The team is in a safe place because the area around the goddess is protected by the game. Finally, the boy can rest a bit and only go back into the game the next day. And before leaving, he says that if the girl wants to be friends in real life, she can send her number. Without giving an answer, the girl logs out, showing she doesn't accept the friendship. The addict logs out exhausted and notices it's already tomorrow. The first thing he does is drink a soda and watch news about the little skull guy. On the news, the boy is called a newbie, and the other players make fun of him. It's also announced that the game is going to have a new event, about some kind of invasion. The great church that worships Lord Arkita received a new prophecy. In real life, the girl logs out and has to work. The first thing she does is call her manager to talk about the recordings. Unfortunately, there still hasn't been any other news about the player who got the little skull guy. Just a few sightings. The man is afraid they'll lose this huge story to another network if they take too long. The first thing to do is contact the game owners and tell them they already know who the player is. Actually, the company messaged the network inviting them to a party. Apparently, the GMs are also keeping an eye on the protagonist while pretending to be NPCs. That's obvious because the kid is going to end up getting rich, and that's why a lot of people are watching him. The girl has an appointment with the MC the next day and asks him to message her if anything happens. The next day, the boy is already back in the game warming up for another match. His longsword mastery got updated and the banshees became passive skills, so the boy believes that should be enough to take part in the new event. He's excited to join in because the rewards are really good and totally worth it. It's been more than 10 minutes and Heron still hasn't shown up in the game, making the boy curious. Suddenly, startling him, the girl shows up behind him and apologizes for being late, so he says the next goal is to join the game's new event, before a level pair. Since he's making the Demon King's new armor, if they find some items in this mission, it would save him time. Then he says he needs to leave immediately for Tarrant Castle. Also, today, the famous red moon is in the sky. The city is super crowded because of this new mission. Luckily, he put the little skull guy in his inventory so it wouldn't cause a scene in the city. Suddenly, a blonde knight approaches the crowd along with bodyguards and announces that anyone who wants to volunteer to go into the invasion against the Demon King just needs to come closer. That makes the MC nervous, because it feels like he's going back to the army, and he doesn't like that. A big blonde man approaches the protagonist, asking if he can help. He's curious to know when the boy got the Rebel Assassin title, asking him to follow. He explains that the ones with that title do a different task in this event. Then the guard warns that applications for the mission will stop for a moment and asks them to wait. The players get annoyed because there's a long line before they get accepted. Apparently, having an important title gives the team a free pass to get in. They start talking about the protagonist having the little skull guy and can't believe he's really there. When they enter the room, the team is surprised by what they see. This is a hidden place inside the castle, and the engineers really did an amazing job building it. The theory is that it took more than 10 years to finish this place completely. The blonde guy announces to the contractor that he brought a player who has a title. It's explained that the player is favored by the trees and has a lot of fame and achievements in the kingdom. That gets the knight excited, saying he might even be able to join the castle's central army. There are 3 main military hierarchies within the kingdom. The first is the central army, and to get in, you need to be someone important. The second is the defense force, made for NPCs who handle protecting the castle. Lastly, there's the vigilante corporation, which defends the player's freedom. Only the best players can join the central army. In other words, the vigilante corporation accepts any player. Unfortunately, the assassin doesn't have enough achievements to join the main army. She was only escorted here because she's part of the protagonist's team. If the boy wants to join the army, the girl will be forced to go to the vigilante corps. Confused, he asks his friend what to do, but she doesn't really get a say. Thinking about the good times, he figures there'll be tons of high-level players in this central army, and a lot of politics involved too. Surprisingly, he says he's going to join the vigilante corporation with his partner. That shocks the blonde guy, since the central army definitely offers better rewards. Finally, the mission to protect the central castle from the invasion begins. The mission is really complex, but what matters is that the boy is now temporarily a soldier. Following the soldier once again, the two of them end up at the Arcata Sanctuary. The surprising part is that with every step, the MC's fame goes up even more. But that doesn't mean everyone taking part in the event will get more fame. Only the MC. After all, not every player gets a private meeting with an archbishop of the kingdom. The man only wants to see the protagonist because of the little skull, which made it possible for him to enter the army. Out of all the players, the team is the first to reach the floor where the archbishop lives. Opening the door, this floor is known in the city for its Arcata Sanctuary. Walking in, the MC is surprised because there are no photos of this place on the internet. The bishop knows who the protagonist is and asks if he wants to join the army and stop the invasion. Finally, the old man introduces himself and says his name is Lannis. First, he apologizes for making the team walk all that distance to see him. Actually, the reason he brought the boy here is because he has a special request to make. To the MC's surprise, the bishop knows the Demon King's horn, which contains his power, disappeared recently. They say the demon was planning to invade the city, but when his horn vanished, he backed off because he was weak. Because of that, he got furious and came up with a new plan to find out which player stole his horn. Finally, the boy understands why he was called the theft from days ago. When the demon invades the city, he'll hunt down the player who stole from him and defeat him. All of a sudden, the MC's mission changes, and now the objective is different. Standing up, the bishop says he knows the MC has the little skull and also stole the horn, so he's the key to this war. The man's hope is that the MC brings peace to the invasion and judges the demon's ambition. If the protagonist refuses this mission that's already been accepted, he'll fail immediately, which means he can't refuse and is forced to do it. Annoyed and impatient, the creature asks what the MC is going to do. He left the demon's horn with his blacksmith friend. Fance said the materials needed to make the armor would cost a lot of money. To pay for it, he made a deal with the guild merchant who asked the MC for the level pair. For that, he helped the trees with the balloon forest problem. After all that, he went to take part in an event that happened because he stole the horn at the start. Meaning if he loses all the hard work he's done these last few days, it'll be for nothing. Worst of all, if the contract isn't completed, the protagonist could still be punished legally. She doesn't believe her friend has any choice but to accept the offer. The girl's idea is to accept the quest and try to hide the horn as much as possible. Finally, the boy accepts the mission and heads into a forest. Irritated, he says it feels like they're messing with him, and he can't take it anymore. After all, he found the item fair and square and used it to make a contract, and now they want to take it away from him. He's starting to think the GMs are messing with him, which annoys the girl. She believes other players must have had similar experiences since the NPCs use the same AI. Suddenly, the boy tries to cross an energy wall and gets thrown back. Getting up, he wonders what happened, since it's not possible to see that barrier anymore. Again, when he tries to walk, he gets thrown back hard. Finally, the girl manages to notice the energy barrier by touching it with her hands. The boy doesn't know why that barrier is there, since the only thing in this forest is the blacksmith's house. The guess is that the barrier knows the horn is tied to the event mission. Suddenly, a masked guy shows up through the forest, startling the team. With a smile on his face, he asks if they're here to find Fance. This weirdo claims he already knew the two of them were coming to the house. So they hand over the blacksmith's letter that he asked to be given when they arrived. The letter says the blacksmith has already been working on the armor since the time the team received this paper. It'll probably take a few weeks to finish the equipment, so he put up this protective barrier. The man warns that the power coming from the horn is insanely high, so this magic barrier is used to stop monsters from trying to take the item back. On top of that, the man gives a fire dragon shield as a gift. They explain that this object was made by melting volcanic stone taken from the mountain area. This item is strong enough to destroy enemy weapons. Finally, with all the news delivered, the masked guy can leave and go on his way. Once again, the protagonist ends up with nothing, and the only one who gets rewards is Skull. So now he decides to go back to the castle and plan the strategy together with the other members of the Watchers. Back at the place, the soldier warns that the demon is leading his army and moving toward the castle. According to the informants, the number of enemies could reach hundreds of thousands. The army is basically made up of creatures that swore loyalty to the Demon King, like orcs and trolls. The girl knows that this enemy, no matter how strong he is, has zero training. However, the long-haired guy says that even if that's true, it's going to be a really tough fight. After all, these creatures don't eat, don't sleep, and don't feel fear of anything, which means the team needs to take these beasts out while their guard is down before they reach the castle. Apparently, the front line of the enemy army is going to pass through the lava world, so if they attack them there and take out their commander, they'll be able to stop the invasion. But first, they need to decide who's going to be sent to lead this mission. Everyone looks at the MC, who already knows he's going to be picked, since he was the one who suggested it. On the other side of the map, the enemy army looks really fierce and crazy for a fight. One of the beasts yells for humans, saying he's going to tear them to pieces and celebrate on their bodies. From the top of the mountain, the protagonist and his team are watching everything. The boy doesn't think they'll be able to sneak past these guys, who are way more skilled than he thought. The girl says the one who needs to beat them is the protagonist, and she's only here to help a little. The boy needs to change his plan, because if he goes in without thinking, he'll get taken out immediately. Looking at his map, he believes there's a secret exit on the opposite side from where they came in. According to the map, if they go to the exit, they'll reach the balloon forest, which means that place has already been taken over by the demon's army. So if they come in through the balloon forest, they'll be able to hit the enemies from behind by surprise. Plus, they can use the trees to their advantage if they still have that acidic substance inside. But for that, they need to get out of this area without being noticed, and fast. To do that, Skull needs to go into the inventory, avoiding drawing unnecessary attention. Moving quietly, the team goes along the edge of the mountain, avoiding enemies. There are enemies everywhere they go, and the team needs to be smart and think of ways to get out. After a while, they run into two demon guards protecting the exit. The surprising part is they got out without being noticed, and the forest is close. If the assassin can take the enemies down fast, they'll be able to get through without drawing attention. When he looks to the side, he freaks out when he sees his friend suddenly vanished. At that moment, one of the orcs notices the protagonist's silhouette and gets curious. He decides to check what he's seeing and leaves his buddy alone. This is the perfect moment for the assassin to get close and land a fatal strike that takes the beast out. When he realizes his partner went to heaven, the demon freaks out. Then the girl runs in and fires off several attacks on the beast. Those hits deal a lot of damage and take him down easily. From far away, the hero thinks it's all so awesome he even considers becoming an assassin. Unfortunately, the opponent wasn't defeated, and the girl needs to dodge his attacks. All of a sudden, she jumps onto his head and locks in a chokehold with her legs. Finally, she manages to take down the pair of enemies without much trouble. Out of patience, she tells them to hurry up and get out of there as soon as possible. In the balloon forest, the mansion is still destroyed from the last fight with the protagonist. Suddenly, the girl notices a paper on the ground with the MC's photo on it. Actually, it's a notice saying the protagonist's head is worth 10,000 gold coins to whoever defeats him. That makes sense, because an army that big would only be able to reach the lava world if the count allowed it. That pisses the boy off, because teaming up with the enemy army is a really dirty move by the fat guy. But the demon and the count had the same goals, so the alliance happened. The boy decides he needs to beat his enemies soon so the duo can level up, when suddenly, someone comes closer, getting the team's attention. As it gets closer, the silhouette makes the boy curious. In real life, the girl thinks it's someone from the Pink Skull race. She thinks she hit the jackpot, because now she's met another pet of the same race. The creature is majestic, but the boy has never seen this mob before and he's scared. Quickly, the little skull is impressed and doesn't even care about fights anymore. Even so, the girl has her dagger ready for any kind of more brutal fight. From far away, a redhead is watching the team while hidden. The girl is a player and wasn't expecting to run into others in this place. When the MC asks if she's in danger, the redhead calls her pet. Then suddenly Pink goes back to being miniature-sized. The little skull falls in love with this girl, but then it starts letting off steam from its body, out of nowhere. But the hero realizes his kid is in love with Pink. The girl says her name is Luna, and she's an alchemist class in the game. The MC is curious to know how to change his pet's size. That's one of the girl's basic abilities. She can change size whenever she wants. Unfortunately, nobody knows if the skull has that kind of ability. The funny thing is that nobody even knew a pink type existed. This patch didn't even get tested in the beta, so it's a secret. The girl is happy to learn the company leaks about a hidden pet were about this. Luna says the skull is really cute too and asks about its abilities. Embarrassed, the MC says it works like a tank, or it even seems really useful for hunts with that ability, the girl says. All love-struck, the boy pulls a flower from the ground and offers it to his girl. Unfortunately, she refuses, breaking the pet's heart. Suddenly, the girl pulls out a wanted poster of the protagonist and asks if they're the same person. What's even more impressive is that she knows he's the one who destroyed the Count's mansion. But then suddenly she asks if they can hunt together and says her age in a kind of cute way, saying her magic class would work really well with someone tanky and powerful like the MC's team. The assassin doesn't like that and says the two pet handlers are clowns in her mind, but she realizes that if this girl dates the MC, they won't be able to hang out together anymore. And if she gets kicked from the team, she can say goodbye to her newspaper scoop. With a plan in mind, she calls the hero over and invites him on a hunt in a sneaky way. On the other side, the redhead is being sneaky too, saying she can take care of herself. Suddenly, the two start arguing, leaving the protagonist confused. Asking them to calm down, he asks the three of them to team up to solve the problems. The redhead calls the assassin an old lady, and she fires back with insults. Excited, the hero says that from now on, the three of them are a team. The protagonist is impressed that the girl is level 170 and is hunting in a lower area. But she explains that this zone is made for strong players, since it has lots of monsters and fairies to hunt, and the boss they're talking about isn't Count Jean. The real boss of the area is the queen. And besides that, there's the fairy queen, who even the strongest players have trouble defeating. But by teaming up the little skull with Pink, maybe they can beat the boss. Feeling cocky, the hero thinks he can fight any boss and agrees. Pink is a melee class, but has low HP since she's stealthy. The only problem is that changing her size takes a long time and has to be used strategically. In other words, she's big for only 1 hour, and the next she has to stay miniature. Luckily, the redhead put a force field around the camp to guarantee safety. The MC says that's good so the characters can get the rest buff. Taking off the mask, he goes to drink some water in real life. He's completely exhausted because he hasn't eaten in 3 days and only drinks soda. The girl from earlier is so pretty that it makes the boy wonder if she's a woman in real life. But he drops the idea, believing there are a lot of weirdos on the internet. Back in the game, he asks if his kid slept well that night. Everyone is on their feet, and the girl asks if everyone woke up okay. Now, the plan is to start gaining XP as fast as possible. Before they start the hunt, Luna wants to give the protagonist a gift. Since he's an alchemist, his magic is kinda weak, but he specializes in making potions that give buffs and debuffs. The potion he gives will instantly restore the MC's HP to full. The other one is a resurrection potion that can revive a fallen character. The recommendation is for the little skull to keep an eye on it and use it on his dad when needed. To help even more, the boy asks the assassin for some item. Jealous, the girl says she doesn't need a potion for Heron because she's strong. Finally, the team is ready to start the day's XP farm. As soon as they find some insects, Skull is already ordered to attack. Getting the creature's attention, he creates an energy dome that blasts most of them away. Next, the alchemist spins her staff and casts a blessing. All three on the team get this buff and their attack power goes up. Now the protagonist is getting stronger and moves toward the fight. Excited, with a jump, he closes in to hit the enemies that are down, landing a powerful blow that could take out all the insects by himself. But the bug family is huge, and they keep showing up. This time, a big explosion happens, taking out even more. The assassin stays calm because she knows her friend can beat them all alone. Holding out her hand like a friend, she says it was thanks to the girl's blessing, which makes her happy as she thanks her for the compliment. Thinking tactically, the assassin says alchemists need to stay in the back handing out potions and blessings. Charging in, she grabs her daggers and readies a powerful attack, jumping from tree to pop the acid balloons. The acid falls on the insects' heads, dealing massive damage. That impresses the redhead, who realizes the girl is smarter than she looks. The boy and the assassin make a really powerful team. Using the little skull's explosion, the MC slices the enemy's body into pieces. Stopping next to his friend, he praises his good work. Another wave of insects comes in for the duo to fight without mercy. This time, the one attacking is Skull, who jumps really high with energy, slamming down on the ground next to the insects, causing huge damage. Then he uses his shield to fire an extremely strong beam at the opponent. Using that opening, the protagonist swings an attack at the remaining enemy's group, and finishes it off like a true protagonist, using a powerful skill on the ground. The skill's name is Air Slash, and it blows up the whole arena. The girl can't believe her friend's power, even though he's low level. It's so weird that it makes her wonder if players at that level are really that strong. Maybe the reason is the little Skull, who's hiding all kinds of powers, or maybe it's luck. Even so, the girl believes Skull might be the strongest of his race that's ever existed. And if the theory is true, the assassin must be getting affected by that passive ability too. On the other side of the arena, the girl is using a tree to confuse an opponent. Jumping back, she uses her daggers, landing a fatal slash on the creature. When she hits the ground, she hears something that grabs her attention. Looking ahead, she sees a crowd of red eyes in the darkness of the forest. That makes her jump onto her friend's group, saying she's out of energy, warning that there are also lots of enemies piled up near the forest. At that moment, Yag is taking down another enemy when the assassin calls him back. The girl warns that they need to quickly think of a strategy, because beyond the hill, there are orcs and the Count's soldiers gathered up. The hero thinks they could easily beat Jijan's soldiers, but their numbers could cause trouble. The problem is that the alliance with the Demon King is going to make a huge army to attack the castle. To make everything worse, there are still giant insects and evil fairies, so the MC's plan is to stop hunting them and lure them all together to wipe the monsters out at once. Suddenly, the girl realizes the little Skull is gone, freaking the player out. The whole team starts going after the boy, worried about his safety. All of a sudden, the little guy shows up running toward the protagonist in a hurry. On his back, a gigantic army of enemies is chasing him. The army is made up of fairies, soldiers, and giant insects crazy for a fight. To make it worse, the orcs are with them too right now. The team has no choice but to run far away, avoiding certain defeat. Annoyed, the hero starts arguing with his son, who feels embarrassed by his behavior. The redhead is already tired and realizes there's no way out ahead, so she asks the team to stay really close, for her plan to work. As the enemies close in, Pink is set down on the ground. Carefully, taking the staff out of the inventory, it explains that the damage isn't high, but it's a daily skill. Focusing, he remembers that the assassin used the balloons to melt the monsters. Then he starts praying for the countless souls already buried underground, asking them to help him punish those who mistreat them. Casting his skill, Remembrance of the Deceased, he deals huge area damage to all the soldiers. Luckily, the impact hits the balloons, which explode and melt even more monsters. With all the soldiers wiped out, the hero praises the girl, saying that was spectacular. Even if his character doesn't deal much damage, his high wisdom stat helped a bit. Jealous, the assassin says the girl was only lucky because there were acid balloons nearby. The girl explains she managed to use the environment because she's smart, since the stat for dealing magic damage is wisdom. Heron says that if the girl is so smart, she should be in the illusionist class. Once again, tension between the two breaks out, annoying the protagonist. Calling her daughter over, the redhead says ignorance is contagious. Suddenly, the protagonist hears people's voices giving orders. Once again, he finds himself surrounded by the Count's soldiers. Out of patience, he summons his sword and gets ready for another fight. The old man is still alive and is commanding his soldiers, saying whoever captures him will get a nice reward. The boy tries to remember Mr. Vitamin's name, but thinks of something ridiculous. From behind, the man leads the knights into a powerful charge. This time, the protagonist is going to make sure of it and crush the enemy once and for all. Stepping in front, the little skeleton is ready for round 2 with these men. Charging up his powerful shield, he slams it into the ground, sending more men flying far away. With his sword in hand, he praises his son while taking out more enemies. Then he fires off another blast, freaking out the butler, who didn't know the MC was that strong. The assassin cautiously approaches a legion of soldiers and gets ready. Dodging several attacks, the girl vanishes from everyone's sight. Suddenly, she appears behind one of the soldiers, landing a fatal strike to his head. One of the soldiers loses control of his body and drops to the ground. Then his buddy, worried, takes a powerful hit to the neck. Once again, the girl uses every skill she has to brutally eliminate the enemies. From afar, Pink is amazed by the scene and looks like she wants to help. So the redhead says it'll be only this once and starts her daughter's body transformation. Now Pinky is huge again and ready for a sword fight. The protagonist thinks the girl looks really cool at that size. Totally smitten, the little skeleton is enchanted by this transformation. Without stopping, Pinky jumps into the middle of the enemies, now way more fierce and skilled. Charging up an energy attack with her twin blades, she wipes out all the enemies in a single strike. Terrified, the old man orders his men to retreat and run. That leaves the MC confused because he didn't know the fight would end so soon. Once again, the little skeleton doesn't want to give the enemies a break and runs straight toward danger. Unfortunately, the protagonist has to go after his son, who's really fast and manages to get ahead. Suddenly, the little guy stops walking, giving the protagonist a chance to catch up. Suddenly, the hero is shocked to notice a very beautiful woman in the middle of the forest. Looking closer, he realizes it's the arena bosses, together for a fight. Dark steps in front and counters, doing a kamehameha with the shield. That creates an opening for the protagonist to land a crushing counterattack on the insect. The impact was so strong it launched the creature far away. When it landed, the queen got even more pissed, hurling a bunch of debris at the team. The impact is so strong the ground shakes and the heroes almost fall over. That worries the MC because this is an area attack that deals a lot of damage. The insect repeats the move, but the protagonist tells his son to dodge in time. Luckily, the redhead gives the protagonist a buff to make him lighter. Now, the magic Luna cast makes the boy able to dodge more easily. Even so, if he stands still, he still takes the hit, like what happened to the hero. The assassin shows up, saying using a potion was better than some badly done magic, which pisses off the redhead, who says she can take care of herself and insults the girl. The queen is so furious that it's the first time in her life she's wanted to hit someone in the real world. Suddenly, the protagonist faceplants into the ground and sees the enemy coming at him brutally. The problem is the kid's also on the ground, which makes the main character get hit square in the stomach. Slamming into the wall, he realizes his life bar only has 1 point. Luckily, the girl saved him by giving him a healing potion. Like magic, the boy's health goes back to 100% after a few gulps. The thing is, he's dumb and takes another hit really fast. Once again, the redhead tosses another healing potion, hoping it'll fix the situation. The boy's strategy is to try to read the attack pattern, but he's too slow and can't. Lying on the ground, the kid is about to give up, but the girl has infinite potions. Out of patience, the assassin doesn't think she has any choice but to jump into the fight. But she knows she won't be beaten easily, because the strongest member of the team, Skull, got back up. In the middle of the fight, the hero is about to get crushed and lose all his XP points. Saving the day, Skull shows up, distracting the bug. When the creature gets close, the boy starts charging up his magic shield. With the time they bought, the girl throws a mysterious potion to the main character. It gives a huge strength buff for 3 seconds. The problem is it only lasts 3 seconds, so the plan is to hit with the strongest attack the hero has. On top of that, the effect gets added onto the character's current strength stat. Running into attack, he lands a ridiculously powerful blow on the enemy. When it hits, he splits the creature in half brutally, lighting up the whole arena. The impact was so strong it almost sent his friends flying. After beating the strongest enemy he's ever faced, he thanks his son for the help. The funny part is the queen is still twitching her leg. Luckily, the assassin shows up out of nowhere, finishing the job for good, and she chews the boy out, telling him to never let his guard down. The enemy was so powerful, it made the hero level up into a class upgrade. On top of that, he got a bunch of powerful items and a lot of fame. Most importantly, there's the insect fruit, which gives the main character insane abilities. Finally, the boy is getting rewarded for the missions, not his son. The problem is, the fight still isn't over, and there's still the fairy queen. All of a sudden, while the team is getting ready, they notice a giant coming closer. The thing that shows up out of nowhere is a golem made of stone and lava. This is the giant that's worth $300 million in real life. It's really surprising because they didn't expect to see another one of that race in this place. What's weird is it's just standing there, not moving for some reason. but a crowd of enemies is running toward the team. But the team isn't scared, because it'd be rude to lose at this point in the fight. The first demon comes in, roaring with rage. Easily, the main character takes it down, while the team fights bravely. Once again, charging up his sword, he takes out a whole crowd of monsters with a single strike. The hero is so strong that every impact sends debris flying all over the arena. The enemies are starting to get scared of the MC getting close because of his strength. Charging toward the army, he looks like he's going all out. He blows up power orbs near the fairies. Now it's Dark's turn, and he fires off another Kamehameha with the shield. Finishing the job, with a jump, the duo manages to take out the last of the fairies in style. The MC's skill is the Meteor Strike, which completely destroys his opponents. At the end of the battle, the hero says the duo works really well together. Like father and son, they shake hands. The problem is that, on the other side of the arena, the fight is still going on with the assassin, so it's time for the boy to step in and freeze more and more of the fairies, destroying everything he sees in his path with energy. One of the enemies comes up and manages to land a hit on the main character's face, and he gets pissed about the cut and hits back hard. Right then, an arrow gets fired at the boy, and he barely dodges. Now it's a whole wave of demon archers shooting. Right away, the assassin notices and comes up with a plan to get closer. Another volley of arrows gets fired, but it hits a teammate. Cool as ever, the assassin finds herself up against an army of archers without being scared. Honestly, the ones fearing for their lives are the enemies themselves, who are scared to shoot. That's the perfect chance for the girl to take them all out easily. With every strike, more and more archers get destroyed and taken out. The army panics, realizing they don't stand a chance against the winning team. Starting to run, they get orders to regroup with the troops. So, the boy believes his mission to stop the enemy front line worked. Now, the only thing left is to defeat the beautiful enemy queen. Running in with his sword, he's dying to take down the fairy. Suddenly, the lava golem starts moving and seems hostile. Annoyed, the hero realizes they're actually trying to steal his reward. Full of rage, he starts blasting all the enemies with energy. The team is shocked because their opponents are getting smashed up into the sky. The hero really doesn't want to lose his $300 million prize. Even the fairy herself is surprised and starts attacking out of fear. Suddenly, the golem starts walking and charges at the opponent. With nothing else to do, the hero activates his glow magic to defend himself. However, the golem has hatred in its heart and prepares its strongest attack. At that moment, the blonde tries to use her staff to defend herself, but the explosion is so strong it wipes out the whole area. Brutally, the woman gets sent to the sky without even getting a chance to fight. The hero wonders if his friend really managed to defeat the queen in a single blow, but the girl is tougher than she looked and is crawling away to survive. The fight isn't over yet, and the protagonist knows that very well. Furious, the fairy starts running, trying to land a powerful attack, but with its axe, the golem manages to strike before taking the hit. Annoyed, the hero realizes the golem is going to tear the opponent apart and steal the prize. After she's left with just a sliver of life, the reward finally appears near the arena. The problem is, the MC can't claim it, because that item doesn't belong to him. That ticks him off, and he starts looking for the golem's owner. As he gets closer, a slick, stuck-up soldier says he's been waiting there to hunt for a long time. He says he beat the enemy because the protagonist couldn't, and that he can't be blamed for stealing if the kid is weak. That makes the hero even madder, and he starts making a bunch of excuses for why he isn't weak. The situation turns into a fight between the two, with lots of insults and threats to throw down. That's the last straw, and the protagonist says he's going to beat the soldier and take the item back. Luckily, the assassin advises him not to, because it would only give him a bad reputation, and judging by the opponent's insane armor, the team wouldn't stand a chance. Now that the queen is dead, the fairies are acting more locally, without a leader. Seeing their attacks ramp up, the stuck-up guy leaves. What freaks the MC out is that his opponent used one of the most expensive items in the game, like it was nothing. You could already tell the guy was loaded, since he had the most expensive golem in the game. For now, they need to wipe out the rest of the fairies and head back in peace. Now the team is way stronger, especially with the support's potions. The duo gets ready to take out every single enemy without mercy. Together, Little Skull runs in to protect everyone. With an energy strike, he slices some enemies in half, while the assassin does the same. The balloon forest is getting completely destroyed in the process. On the other side of the battle, Skull is taking care of the fallen little fairy. He gives her the resurrection potion, the one he was supposed to give the protagonist. That makes the boy mad, because the item shouldn't have been wasted on an evil monster. The potion gets used, and the hero starts crying, since it cost a lot. On top of that, he lectures his son a bunch, and the kid gets embarrassed. At that moment, the queen starts coming back to life as she opens her eyes. The girl stands up, scaring Little Skull, who gets excited. The fairy is back to full health and stronger than ever. Because of that, all the little fairies calm down and stop wanting to fight. Now, the stratas say these creatures are showing gratitude and aren't hostile anymore. Because of that, Little Skull receives a blessing and levels up. With that, he reaches level 100, becoming insanely stronger. In peace, all the little fairies leave, making the protagonist annoyed. Luckily, they wouldn't be able to finish this hunt anyway, because in the game system they're not hostile anymore. Little Skull always ends up helping the team, even if it's hard to understand what he's thinking. At the end of the battle, the team sets up a campfire to rest. The two pets are already resting, because they used all their power in the battle. Even so, the hero is mad at his son, because they had to stop the hunt because of him. And on top of everything, he still didn't get a single XP point for his master. The tree shows up asking them not to be so cruel to the boy, since he still has a lot of powers that haven't been revealed yet. The entity is going to give bonus XP points for defeating Count Jean. They're also going to allow them to make a campfire inside the forest, as long as they don't burn everything down. Now that the mission to attack the enemy troops' front line is complete, the hero needs to go check on the Archbishop and see what to do. The redhead is also going to use the trip to turn in a few pending quests she has there. So the boy suggests they split up and only meet again when it's time to hunt. The assassin herself has other plans she needs to take care of. Before leaving, the girl suggests putting Skull in the inventory, since that item is getting really famous among players. And for that, he needs to train the little guy to handle staying inside the box for several hours like an animal. Looking at his son, he realizes he really does look like a pet. When they get to the city, the team splits up to do their tasks. The hero says he'll message the assassin when it's time for the next hunt. But then, finally, the girl decides to swap real-life phone numbers to keep the friendship going. She thinks that because it'll be convenient for planning future hunts outside the game. The two exchange numbers, which gets the hero excited to get a message from his teammate. In real life, the girl warms up a bit after spending the whole day in the game. Judging by the MC's personality, she doesn't think he'll want other women now that he has her private number. She's doing this so she'll be the only person with info about Little Skull. Even so, she thinks her friend is a good guy and that this is kind of selfish. Still, the more she thinks about his romance with the redhead, the more annoyed she gets. When she realizes she's getting worked up over dumb stuff, she decides to go to the gym and think about something else. Inside a shop, the hero sees his buddy, who he hasn't run into in a long time. The protagonist's fame seems to be known by everyone in the kingdom since the Demon King's invasion. He's there to sell some of the items he farmed. Dumping everything on the floor, he says he worked hard to collect all that and wants good money in return. The items collected are from the Sober and Lava worlds, a set with orcs and fairies. On top of that, there are also Count Jean's treasures, which could be worth a lot of money altogether. The merchant warns that if all of that is put on the player market, the MC will make a lot more money. As he leaves, the merchant says next time he doesn't want to wait for such a huge amount of items like that. Heading to the city's blacksmith, he finally wants to level up his class to get stronger. His friend says it's time to go back to the Archbishop to get the big promised prize. Before leaving, he asks him to come back and get something once he levels up. Finally, in the Archbishop's room, he's met by a butler who's a member of the Vigilantes. He's very careful and is going to escort the MC to the Bishop's room. Now that he's reached level 150 and stopped the enemy invasion, the hero can get his class upgrade. Attacking the enemy supply line greatly delayed the enemy's arrival at the castle. Those rumors are a bit exaggerated. The battle wasn't as intense as people say, but what the hero didn't know is that the path connecting the lava world to the balloon forest was where they kept the army's supplies. With the team's attack, it showed the enemies just how far the castle's forces can go. Also, by dealing with the terrible Count Jean, he made it even harder for the demons to get through. The bishop says that because of all that, the hero deserves a prize to match. To start with, he'll receive lots of experience points and gold coins as a reward. The hero jokes that the best part of all of it is the money he gets. This mission had several stages, and at the start the hero got little money for each objective. On top of that, a questline will also be added for him to complete from now on. Even though the boy has reached the level needed for the class increase, he still hasn't earned it. For that, the bishop will hand over the final mission needed to complete the upgrade. All of a sudden, the room gets completely weird. Something appears. This world seems made by magic and is packed with enemies. The hero is confused, wondering where he is. Beside him are several demon statues made of clay. These stones can't attack, and their HP levels are equivalent to someone at level 200. So, the old guy says the main character can go ahead with the upgrade in this place. To level up, the hero needs to balance his power and create a new skill using that crazy berserker power. But the one who has to figure out how to balance the power is the main character alone. In front of the bishop and the hero, he says the enemy invasion still isn't over and the mission isn't truly complete. That means if he doesn't finish this training by next week, he won't be able to take part in the invasion. Unfortunately, the MC's task is to class up before time runs out. What bothers him is that he doesn't even know how to balance his power to level up. He realizes he got a quest while taking part in an event and needs to complete both. On top of that, he'll only be able to get the materials for the armor without going past level 150. From now on, leveling up got more complicated and it'll only be solved when he completes this mission. The only problem is that being here alone is really scary for the hero. At least he has his son to come along with him on this journey. The weird thing is, the little guy is smacking the statues without thinking about anything. Those statues are nothing but dummies, making Cavarinha's distractions useless. Before making any decision, he decides to take a look around. Looking it up online, he finds out the best way to complete this is by destroying all the statues in the arena. In other words, when he destroys the objects, the game will figure out which skills the hero uses a lot or not. In the end, he'll need to destroy several statues with absurd HP, equivalent to a level 200 monster. The only problem is, this is going to take a long time, and the only thing he can do is start. With a smile on his face, he says he needs to hurry and finish in time to take part in the event. Using as much strength as he can, he tries to destroy the statues one by one. With every hit he lands, he discovers new skills for his arsenal. On top of that, his newly discovered skills level up with each impact. Some time passes, and the main character manages to destroy all the enemies and meets the requirements for the upgrade. That gets him excited because it's finally time to reach the class he wants. Looking at his stats, he's now way more powerful with his skills leveled up. Plus, he's surprised to realize he has bonus points, being level 160 now. Because of that, he's going to equip the Sea Dragon armor he got earlier, looking even cooler. Now the main character is much stronger and more stylish, able to use items he couldn't before. The first thing he does is take a powerful leap, testing the limit of his strength. While he's in the air, he realizes his jump is twice as strong as before. Plus, his strength and agility don't compare to his old self. All of a sudden, the team starts leaving the bishop's secret world. He's there to congratulate the main character for reaching the required level. When he sees the man, he complains that nobody told him what was going on when he got transported. With the handless Antar, he says this is a gift to celebrate the hero's achievement. Apparently, it's a pretty ancient object that contains magic from the mysterious church. Unfortunately, the boy can't use it yet, but it'll take some time for that. For now, it means it'll just be taking up space in the MC's inventory. Congratulating his friend, the priest says the invasion still isn't over, but it was postponed for a few days. After taking out the bosses, the castle managed to gain control of the area, but they were told the troops are still in the lava world. Now that they're desperate, there's no telling how they'll act, so the best thing is to attack by surprise. This is probably another mission the main character can't refuse. Funny enough, the bishop doesn't answer, so he doesn't give the boy a chance to complain. Even when he leaves, the NPC keeps repeating the dialogue. The hero's plan is to go back with Cavarinha to the lava world. Unfortunately, the team members are offline right now. In real life, he gets the idea to send a message to his new friend. The girl is at work, talking about Cavarinha's last appearance. The main character hopes the girl will reply as soon as she sees the message and logs into the game. Arriving in the lava world, the temperature is already really high. Quickly, the hero notices the entrance to the cave where the enemy army is. Spawning his sword, he's dying to see how powerful he's gotten. Using the crazy blood skill from his upgrade, he won't show any mercy now. The demons are surprised to see the human in this place, and the fight starts. Now that his attack is stronger, his strategy is to dodge and find an opening. The demon starts attacking, but Cavarinha moves in front, blocking the impact. The protective dome once again blasts everyone really far away, leaving the enemy shocked, not understanding how it happened. Praising his son, the protagonist lands a clean hit that splits the enemy in half. Then he keeps cutting down everything in front of him, with all the strength in his arms. The power is so huge it causes an explosion at the cave entrance, visible from far away. At the end of the battle, he's proud, because his attacks pack insane power now. Heading into the objective, he realizes he can handle things just fine on his own. Inside the arena, he notices it's even hotter, surrounded by lava. Still, Cavarinha doesn't feel it, and grabs some of the liquid with his hand. The MC is running and notices something that surprises him up ahead. He's shocked when he sees a giant stone statue just standing there. The creature, called Valrog, charges up the whole arena with its powers. This is an ancient monster that stays at the bottom of the lava world. Apparently it's so powerful it could destroy the entire world by itself. They say the dwarves created this statue a long time ago. The fact that this thing is here means the team is really deep underground, but Cavarinia is making a lot of noise, which could bring trouble. That's exactly what happens when the enemy wakes up from its deep sleep. The two of them find themselves facing a brutal battle against a strong enemy. Once again, the protagonist blames everything on his son's actions. In the next scene, the hero is seen jumping away from a blast of fire to save himself. Luckily, Dark uses his shield to protect himself from the impact right away. This time, Cavarinia managed to distract the statue, giving the protagonist an opening. Activating Madbreaker, the hero charges in to land a heavy hit. Using the energy, he throws several attacks through the air, aimed at the opponent. Finally, he strikes the statue's back with a sharp blade. Even so, the statue still hasn't fallen, not even close. Now it's her turn to hit back, slamming the ground hard and sending debris flying across the arena. Cavarinia gets annoyed and rushes in, jumping as he powers something up. Up in the air, he fires a fire Kamehameha straight at the demon. The hero moves in and finds the statue surprisingly weak for its power. Unfortunately, his skill is on a 10-second cooldown, delaying his strike. Even so, the enemy doesn't attack and, for some reason, waits for the 10 seconds to pass. When the time's up, the hero activates his third-level skill called Mad Hurricane. It's so powerful it makes the giant fall, kicking up dust all over the fight. With a slam into the ground, the creature is completely destroyed, launching rocks far away. The team celebrates, saying they did a good job. Unfortunately, the negative effects of that skill are harsh, and now the hero is weak for a while. Even so, the kid managed to move with difficulty throughout the fight. Near the statue's destroyed body, the hero notices an energy orb. It's a piece of the demon's soul and an important ingredient, which means there are probably more of these things in the world. Suddenly, a crowd of demons closes in on the protagonist. This is the vanguard of the Demon King's army that was hidden in the arena. These things are desperate to take down the protagonist as soon as possible. Still, the hero doesn't flinch and is ready for another round. A demon says they're the vanguard of the enemy army and members of the troop command. He also says that if the protagonist leaves now, his life will be taken. But his enemies don't seem that strong, which keeps the hero calm. In fact, he believes he could defeat the army alone, which pisses off the troop commander, who orders the attack. Right away, the hero uses Mad Destiny as the men close in. Because of that skill, the hero is way stronger, letting him take down several enemies in just a few hits. Then he knocks all the creatures to the ground with a heavy impact. On the other side of the fight, Cavarinia is doing his part, throwing punches with the shield. The commander realizes his troops are getting wiped out with no trouble, when suddenly the commander of them all approaches, asking what's going on. He knows the protagonist destroyed the statue in the area. Because of that, he knows his troops won't beat them, even if they try hard. So he'll have to deal with the MC alone with his own hands. In the arena, Cavarinia is destroying all his opponents with his new power. At the same time, the protagonist is also tearing through his enemies alongside him. Finally, the battle ends when the entire army is defeated. The hero jokes that his son does a lot more than just carry weight now that he's a high level. Suddenly, the team notices the orc commander approaching. The enemy lands a powerful hit on Little Skull, who doesn't block in time. That scares the main character, seeing his son hurt. The impact was so strong it threw the boy far away from the arena. Now the fight is between the orc and the main character in a one-on-one showdown to the end. With a grin on his face, the beast says he'll finish his opponent before the full moon. On top of that, tonight's moon is red, something really rare in this world. Luckily, the hero manages to dodge the first hit within seconds. The problem with using hammers is that even though they're strong, your agility gets really low. The advantage the boy is using comes from the effects of the last skill, which lets him memorize the enemy's attack pattern. Unfortunately, while he's in the air, he takes a powerful energy blast to the chest. The damage was so bad it made him cough and get thrown back. The commander said nobody's getting in the way of the demon army, not even the hero. That hit hurt even more because the crazy fate penalty kicked in. Luckily, the team's main guy is still alive and ready for another round. The hero remembers he didn't use his necklace from before. All of a sudden, some rubble starts moving, catching the orc's attention. The hero spawned the old insect king that had been trapped in his necklace. Now it's impossible for the commander to win with 3 big enemies to deal with. The enemy says the main character might even be able to beat a really powerful player in a PvP. That's weird because no NPC would say something like that. Even so, he thinks he can crush everyone by himself. Even with all that going on, Little Skull got made into a target, acting as a distraction. The battle is tense in the arena when Patch is using the full extent of his power. With his shield in hand, he tries to tank every hit coming his way while striking back. On the other side, the giant insect moves in to land a surprise attack from behind, landing a clean, merciless swipe right on the beast. This is the perfect moment for the main character to land a hit strong enough to end the fight. Activating his strongest skill once again, he unleashes a bunch of blows on the orc. In the end, he walks away after throwing crazy break on the commander. All those hits are strong enough to completely tear him apart. That leaves the enemy soldiers scared for their leader's life. The good news is, the hero can land the finishing blow since his main skill still hasn't ended. With a powerful leap, he closes in on the enemy, aiming to deliver a brutal strike. Aiming straight for his head, he easily splits his body in two. At the end of the battle, the hero is happy he scared all his opponents with that show of power. Even so, the orcs hesitate to fight, afraid of getting their lives ended. One of the monsters gets seriously pissed at the main character for defeating the commander. Wanting another fight, the hero asks if they're really going to try to push forward anyway. The problem is, his HP is extremely low because of all the skills he burned through. If he takes even one hit, he'll definitely go down. The enemy troops lieutenant orders everyone to attack immediately. This is the perfect moment for the main character to use the teleport scroll he'd been saving. As the enemies rush in all at once, the hero casts the spell, keeping himself from getting hit. The soldiers start attacking the light around the teleport, thinking they can break the magic. Luckily, the hero manages to escape in time, leaving everyone behind. Back in the city, he realizes that if he'd taken even one more second, he would have died. Looking up at the sky, he notices the red moon appears and disappears several times during the day. That leaves him curious, especially remembering when the monsters called him Chosen. All of a sudden, a soldier taps his shoulder. The blonde guy asks if he's heading toward the city's sanctuary. Unfortunately, it's already too late. The bishop is resting and won't wake up until the next day. Time passes and strangely, the red moon is still in the sky, even at dawn. Finally, the boy meets up with the priest again. After finishing the mission, the man announces he'll hand out the rewards. With that, the main character levels up and gets several powerful skills. On top of that, he's gifted a mysterious item. A glove that automatically restores the user's health every 10 minutes. Thanks to that, the hero gains command of the city's knights, monks, and clerics. The priest warns that the night of the invasion has arrived and they'll need to protect the castle. The whole city already knows and starts getting ready for the incoming attack. Rumors are going around that the enemy's supplies were destroyed a few days ago, which could weaken their forces. The blacksmith and the dandy arrive in the city, asking if all the players are gathered. That makes the boy curious about why Rico is there. The blacksmith calls the protagonist by name and reveals that he's a centurion of the Central Army. To protect the castle, they'll need to join forces between the army and the vigilantes. The hero realizes that if he'd gone to the Central Army, he would have ended up working with the dandy. Now the defenses start going up, and every hero has to do their part. Training ends, and everyone knows the fight coming up won't be small. The protagonist now has people to command and orders to give. Among his subordinates are a holy warrior, a monk, and a cleric. The red moon shines bright, showing the Demon King's power growing. That's how they confirm the invasion will happen today. Calling his son over, the hero warns that the battle is about to start and asks for his help. He apologizes for leaving him stuck in the inventory for so long. As soon as he frees him, everyone notices the appearance of Little Skull, who's already really famous. That makes the protagonist uncomfortable, because he knows his son will have to fight by his side in this war. All of a sudden, a small energy tornado appears in the distance. That's the sign the fight has started, when an orc calls his companions to battle. Right after that, an army of skeletons shows up to help. Luckily, these enemies seem weak, which makes the opening clash easier. The first line of defense heads straight into the war. The soldiers, well trained, are ready for whatever comes. But things will get risky if the soldiers attack without a plan. That scares the hero, because his defensive line will get wiped out if they don't think of something. Finally, the assassin shows up in the game and startles the protagonist who is busy. Either way, she knows this invasion event is going to be insane. On the battlefield, a healer is being brutally attacked. Luckily, she uses her staff to counterattack the enemies and save her own skin. The ability she uses is Lightning Quake. The skill is strong enough to scare the skeletons and take down many others. The 2nd Battalion finally arrives, led by other soldiers ready to fight. At last, the skeletons are getting taken down one after another without being able to fight back. However, the commander of those things orders the archers to start shooting right away. A volley of arrows is fired toward the knight who's staying calm. He's not going to be scared by a few arrows shot by weak enemies. The only problem is those shots are poisoned and start damaging his body. So the man orders his troops to use their shields to defend themselves. Because of that, that man's HP is going to keep dropping until it hits 0. Even if the mage can remove that negative effect, her mana is already too low to use anything. The hero can't help, since his job is to protect the defensive line in other ways. Now the battle gets worse and worse with the arrival of powerful demons. With his health really low, the blonde guy sees there's nowhere to run, and he's going to be defeated. The orcs are giving it everything they've got to win this invasion by taking down the soldiers. One of the boys tries to run, but gets hit by a powerful blow that defeats him instantly. Then more and more demons move in, wiping out allied forces. A powerful archer uses that opening to fire volleys of arrows at the strongest orc. Because he's so strong, his magic can destroy the enemy, punching a bunch of holes through his body. Even so, the opposing team still has plenty of soldiers to push forward. As expected, the plan is working, and the enemies are being pushed back. Even if the monsters are low level, it's impossible to deal with such a huge number of enemies. A soldier blows the horn, drawing attention and calling in even more troops. The blacksmith is going to help in this fight too, with his magnificent star armor. Delt is also captain of the First Order of Royal Knights of the Central Army. With his skill and old experience, he leads the troops forward. At this moment, more archers get ready to launch a hail of poisoned arrows. Luckily, the mage manages to step in time and creates a protective dome over the knights. That impresses the protagonist, thinking the mage was really smart. That gave the allies a second chance, and they take down skeletons easily. All of a sudden, the blacksmith notices the Demon King approaching from far away. Actually, what appears is the statue the protagonist fought some time ago. Firing off a blast of fire, it easily takes out the knight in front of it. The statue is being accompanied by two more mysterious people who are very strong. Finally, the man orders the vigilante troops to join the fight to help. This is the moment for the protagonist and his team to jump in and finally win this fight. Everyone's gathered, hyped up for a glorious battle. The corporation's watchers gather around Delt, who's running the whole thing. The Dark Warrior starts moving forward, while the statue fires off bursts of flame. The order is for all the soldiers to push forward and wipe out everything in front of them. Finally, the protagonist's team is ready and jumps onto the battlefield. The first clueless orc charges at the watchers, hoping to take down as many as he can. What's surprising is he actually manages to take out a few members of the MC's team. The assassin is annoyed, because there's no time to waste and she needs to push ahead ASAP. Finally, the preppy rich kid shows up to the fight ready to shine. Pulling his ace up his sleeve, he summons the golem, who lands a powerful kick on the orc. The giant manages to smash dozens of skeletons with a single hit. Using his axes, he triggers energy explosions in the ground, taking out even more enemies. The soldiers get really fired up having this ally on their team. The skinny enemy gets pissed seeing that and starts throwing out some powers. Somehow, he manages to trap the stone being's leg with purple slime. On top of that, he creates clones of himself to make the battle even harder. The golem is being dragged by the evil mage's magic and pinned to the ground. To make it worse, the demon statue blasts fire straight into the golem's face. The problem is the giant's magic resistance is weak, making him vulnerable to spells like that. Delt notices even the golem failed and orders a retreat back to the castle to think up another strategy. Looks like the statue, together with the liches, makes a really powerful combo against the army. On the other side of the battle, the dark being keeps wiping out enemies without mercy. The girl can't believe their enemies are strong enough to be dungeon bosses. This battle is really rough, because normal players don't have enough power to beat these monsters. All cocky, the protagonist says the hero hasn't gone to heaven yet. After finishing the bishop's mission, he got super powerful troops of knights, monks, and clerics. The monks need to rescue anyone in danger, while the knights help fight the liches. The mid-rank soldiers start running away, scared of getting wiped out. Suddenly, a squad of clerics shows up, saving those men's lives. The preppy rich kid is getting desperate because his giant can't go back into his inventory. While he's thinking about why, the Dark Knight quietly comes closer. He readies a powerful attack that would easily take the guy down. But when he blocks, he realizes he was saved by a really skilled monk NPC. This monk can fight the dark being without much trouble. Charging up his punch, he sends the opponent flying far away. Seeing the knight got completely wrecked, the preppy rich kid asks who this NPC is. The guy keeps taking down skeletons one after another, using only his fists. Even so, the Legion of Liches insists on fighting. They cast a madness spell on the soldiers, leaving them totally unhinged. Royal Knights move toward the battle, saying they need to wipe out all evil in the arena. With a solid plan, the protagonist says he's moving in to help too. Using his powerful sword, he takes out more enemies while Skull moves in. The rich kid is shocked when he realizes someone else is commanding the troops, not him. The protagonist is leading these men to push farther and farther, clearing everything in their path. The golem, together with the protagonist's army, keeps pounding away non-stop. A huge blast of energy hits the enemy soldiers. The problem is the liches are trying to build a protective magic shield. With blood in his eyes, Skull sprints right up to the enemies and unleashes a flash of energy. Then he blows the whole scene to pieces. Finally, the preppy rich kid realizes the protagonist is nearby. the duo keeps fighting non-stop, using as many skills as they can. The blacksmith thinks the protagonist is a great warrior and fights well. Leading the army, the man says victory is on the way and leaps into attack. With a clean strike, he defeats the lich in front of him, slicing it in half. He says those born in darkness need to return there at the end of their lives. Meanwhile, the allied soldiers keep running around wounded from the poison. Luckily, the monk is moving in to take down the army of dark warriors. With his skill, kind of like Gifu's, he hits hard and saves the day. Now the castle's army is gaining the upper hand in the battle. The troops keep fighting the skeletons, who are in insane numbers. Suddenly, they start noticing a noise that sounds like a dinosaur. A beam of light brings someone really dangerous into the fight. Everyone gets scared when they realize it's the Great Stone Demon King with his undead army. Even the main character gets freaked out seeing the Great Lord of the Underworld right in front of him. The city is in danger because they thought he wouldn't make it in time. The problem is the boss gives buffs to his allies, like strength and agility. Unfortunately, they thought they were going to win this fight, but they order all units to start fighting. The orders are also to retreat and protect the castle. The men hesitate, not knowing what they should do, because the orders are completely opposite. Right in front of him, the hero realizes the enemy is the size of a building. Afraid her partner might die, the girl grabs his hand saying he can't just stand there. The red moon lights up the battlefield, which has no hope of victory left. Who shows up is the Demon King's Vanguard commander. The Vanguard can smell the delicious scent of human flesh, so he decides to start the attack by hurling stone balls. Luckily, the warriors are on standby, trying to defend their territory as much as possible. They weren't warned the balls were explosive, and they immediately take out some of their men. The others keep getting thrown non-stop, destroying a big part of the wall. The player is already out of patience knowing the event has several different stages. When a stone is about to take out the duo, Skull steps in front with a dragon shield. He blocks the impact beautifully, but the Vanguard keeps ordering launches non-stop. The blacksmith isn't ready to give up and orders them to hit back as hard as they can. On standby, the archers fire several volleys of energy into the enemy army. Boosted with magic, each arrow explodes, taking out a bunch of orcs. This is getting annoying, because the commander won't quit. The enemies are putting ladders on the wall to climb up and invade the castle. Commander Blacksmith orders them to focus on the ones climbing up the wall. One of the problems is, they're way too fast and manage to break in from everywhere. Saving the day, the preppy guy says now's not the time to give up. With several consecutive attacks, he destroys a big part of the enemies, leaving only wreckage. With all his strength, this boy's goal is to destroy the ogres climbing the ladders. The archers together with mages launch missiles to wipe out the invaders. On the other side of the fight, the girl is fighting a dark warrior. Charging her sword with demonic energy, she attacks several at once. Not understanding anything, the enemies start falling apart from the inside out. With their numbers dropping, the orcs don't stop climbing the ladders and invading. Now the girl's targets are those beasts. The problem is, she's already really tired and won't be able to keep up this pace of fighting. The main character is also tearing through as much as he can with sword swings, managing to dodge hits and counterattack with the sword's blast. Little Skull is also doing his part, tanking the impacts and distracting the evil army. More and more enemies are getting shredded by the main character's team. The kid even managed to take down a dark warrior alone with his power. This time the problem is the army managed to bring something to smash the gates. Immediately, all troops need to focus on destroying that siege weapon. The creature's reinforced frame makes the arrows do nothing. The Vanguard is ordering his men not to stop and to keep forcing their way in. Suddenly, a mage says she's going to use her biggest skill, firing lightning shots all over the evil territory. That was an attack from one of the system's best players. Even so, the armor stayed intact. But the hero is already on the rise and needs to help right now. But he's getting scared because even a strong player couldn't beat it. Dark's encouragement pushes him to go after it and run in to help. In front of the enemy army, everyone is impressed seeing Skull leading the defense. Charging up a huge orb of energy, he jumps in front of the weapon, blowing everything up in his path. Even covered in armor, the enemies got burned by the impact. The whole crowd is impressed the boy destroyed something none of the top players could. The hero says that in that case he needs to help his son do something. The duo is together again and they strike together to finish the job in style. This sword is crackling with a ton of magic, giving the hero a chance to activate really powerful skills. The boy's strategy was to use his son to destabilize the armor and attack through the opening. The defense is completely destroyed and it's the hero's chance to crush the army completely. With a single precise strike, he blows everything up, shocking the evil Vanguard. The creature can't believe a mere player like the hero managed to defeat his most trained ogres. They say that even without Skullboy, the MC is strong. Sick of all the talking, the hero tells them to come closer and just finish the fight already. The opponent can't refuse the hype of fighting a 1 versus 1 against the hero. Getting ready, he says he'll charge in at any moment. The vanguard is the leader of the troops, and if he goes down, the tide can turn. Quickly, the hero dodges the first attack, barely. Unfortunately, the beast doesn't stop pushing forward and throwing a bunch of attacks at the kid. In the end, it misses an attack and hits the ground, giving the protagonist a chance to hit back hard. He realizes he'll never win if he only focuses on dodging. That pisses off the enemy, who thinks the protagonist runs like a coward. Skullboy moves in the fight, helping his partner with bursts of fire. Once again, the captain is irritated and attacks the opponent's protective shield. The funny thing is that even a smart creature gets distracted by the little guy. All of a sudden, the hero spots a weak point on the beast's body. While the team argues about what to do, Skullboy is blocking every hit with precision. Running in, the girl activates a crazy blood skill to deal massive damage to the pus ball. Jumping, she readies her blade like a dagger and aims right at the fatal spot. That deals insane damage to the enemy, which roars in pain with every move. The hero puts all his strength into it and pops the bubble, landing a crit. The enemy army has no idea what just happened. The allies can't believe how the hero managed to beat several bosses so easily. The class combo with the skills and the final crit led to that massive power, which means the MC has ridiculous luck. Everyone starts clapping for the kid, who gets awkward and says thanks. The Centurion gets jealous for missing out on that glory and says the war isn't over yet. The kid realizes the enemy orcs still haven't given up and are advancing in huge numbers. Finally, the Black Centaurs arrive on the battlefield, making the team's situation worse, and it worries the blacksmith because now there are tons of enemy troops to deal with at the same time. The Demon King's second commander comes up saying his friend was useless. Seeing the enemy army, the hero even gets scared of how strong they are. Rich Boy doesn't think they can win this war and orders the armies to abandon the defense line. That confuses the men, because they didn't expect to have to retreat right now. Jealous, he says to leave the protagonist behind so they don't go to heaven. Suddenly, the protagonist finds himself alone on the battlefield, facing 3 troops by himself, not believing he was really abandoned by all the troops. A 3-headed beast shows up too, dying to hunt. The centaur leader orders all troops to charge toward the protagonist. The assassin is worried because the castle gates have been closed. All the allies are retreating and running from the front line. This is all that slick-haired guy's fault, which pisses the assassin off. The problem is, he doesn't care and claims the hero disobeyed direct orders to enter the castle. And he says even if he ends up getting defeated, he'll only lose a few items and revive later. On the battlefield, the kid doesn't give up and keeps pushing forward with his pet. Cruelly, the slick-haired guy says that if the kid wanted to live, he would have run inside the castle. And from now on, he tells the girl not to waste time and to run already. It doesn't take much for the girl to realize the soldier is just some jealous nobody. The problem is she can't go down to the battlefield and help the kid in this mess. The protagonist still can't believe he was left alone. Even knowing he'll revive if he goes to heaven, he doesn't like the idea of losing XP. Seeing the enemy army closing in on him, he needs to think of something fast. Calling Skullboy, he says the party started while he charges up a ball. His strategy is to call all the soldiers who obey him to gather around him. Quickly, monks, warriors, and clerics show up to the fight. The kid's influence is so big that 118 men showed up to fight. With no patience, the orders are clear. Attack and destroy everything in your way. When the orcs get close, the hero is already ready to wipe out the opponents. The two forces rush at each other as fast as they can to end this war once and for all. Jumping over the warrior, the MC causes an explosion in the ground that throws a bunch of enemies far away. Right after that, the bald friend comes in, using a soldier's body as a stepping stone. In the air, he gets ready to land a fatal attack on the troops on the ground with the impact of his body. With a single strike, he destroys the shadow beings without any trouble. The allied monks move in with blood in their eyes, determined to end the fight. A full-on brawl is breaking out on the battlefield, non-stop. This time, archers fire arrows charged with dark energy. Luckily, the cleric was nearby and shields her allies with a dome. The allies end up being way more useful than the protagonist expected. This scene shocks the preppy guy, who didn't expect the MC to stand his ground. Impressively, they manage to tear apart and destroy every opponent without much trouble. A shadowy being approaches the protagonist, who dodges the strike in time and hits back hard, splitting the enemy in half. The new commander asks how the human dares to get in his way, rushes forward at high speed, saying he'll handle this problem personally. Slamming his shoulder into the protagonist, he hurls him into the wall. The hit was so strong that the MC got thrown really far. The enemy says his opponent is just acting tough, but still hasn't reached a high level. Without mercy, he says he's going to beat him and charges in, winding up an attack even stronger than the last. Seeing his opponent smash full force into the wall, the commander starts laughing. The little skeleton is sad, thinking his master went up to heaven. Firing an arrow, the beast says it's time to finish the fight. The wall is completely wrecked by the burst of explosions, letting them into the castle. Everyone in the city panics, running toward the inner protective wall. The soldiers order everyone to move in an organized way so they don't cause trouble. People thought they were winning the fight, but it all fell apart fast. This is how the company is going to stop level inflation, with everyone losing their XP when they get defeated. But everyone knows the protagonist is outside, protecting everyone's safety. The jealous guy shows up, saying the MC sacrificed himself to buy time for everyone to escape. The centaur is closing in, thinking the hero has been beaten for good. A trio of three-headed dogs shows up, dying to feed on every piece of their target. Finally, the country's savior shows up, stepping in front of the animals. The little guy isn't scared and powers up his shield to counterattack because of it. Right then, the knight comes up, saying he's loyal to the master. When the enemy centaur fires volleys of arrows, the warrior deflects them with his blade. Finally, the hero is getting up, watching his allies fight bravely. His body won't move, even though he really wants to get up. Luckily, the healer was nearby and restores the boy's life as much as she can. The MC's injuries are so severe that his HP goes up slowly. The only rule to heal properly is not to move at all until the wounds get better. His allies will try to buy as much time as they can until the hero is okay. In sync, the monks shout that this is for the master. Thinking it over, he realizes they won't be able to win if the fight keeps going like this. This time's boss seems way stronger than the last one, which could mean defeat. Even with the full support of his soldiers, the enemy army won't stop. All of a sudden, the little skeleton's final evolution is about to begin. The only problem is nothing changed, making the boss curse out his teammates. Telling everyone to get out of his way, he charges up his paws with power. He throws an energy tornado toward the rival team. This power is so strong, it flings the monks and soldiers really far away. Even the clerics are getting affected by this powerful magic that shakes the whole arena. The explosion was so huge, it opened an even bigger hole in the wall. All the soldiers are down, except the little skeleton who stays standing. Because of that, the boy's life got bad again, to the point of dying. This time, the centaur comes closer, wanting to finish off the protagonist. With no hope, he thinks he won't be able to go any further in this event. Luckily, his son motivates him, leaving the boss confused. Finally, the boy's evolution is complete, surprising the MC. Unfortunately, the archer doesn't stop and keeps aiming his powerful arrows. Before something worse happens, someone quickly slices the bow cleanly in half. Throwing a powerful punch, he sends the man to the other side of the arena. This is the skeleton's strongest evolution so far, turning into a deadly warrior. The centaur is impressed to see his opponent in his strongest form. After completing the first evolution, a red moon, Skull, reached an even more powerful stage. On top of all that, the fairy's blessings were activated in the fight. Finally, the boy is becoming a real warrior trained for combat. The commander's orders are for all the armies to focus on the opponent until he's defeated. Even with a bunch of enemies closing in, Big Skull is relaxed and calm, landing brutal hits on the dark warriors closing in. Then with his shield, he takes out the three-headed dogs easily. Right then, a warrior tries to strike his opponent, but his attack gets blocked by the shield. Next, Skull powers up his body and sets off a massive explosion in the arena. A centaur is coming in, firing volleys of arrows charged with cursed energy, so the kid uses his shield to form a protective dome around himself, stopping the arrows. That fires up the MC, who thinks they can turn things around now that his son is strong. Sadly, the castle situation is really bad, with enemy forces pouring in non-stop. Engomadinho warns that they sent a scout to see how the fight is going. Suddenly, that same soldier comes back from the inspection. The good news is the enemy army stopped advancing, because it's fighting the MC in a fight to the death. That shocks the rich guy, who didn't think his rival would still be alive. From afar, the assassin is listening to all the gossip about Little Skull having evolved. Even the golem was useless against the statue and the liches. Maybe this is the castle's only chance to hit back against the invasion and win. Scared, the centurion says that if his pet couldn't beat it, then Skull won't either. Annoyed, the blacksmith tells all the armies to unite and get ready for a fierce counterattack. The guy thinks all the NPCs are sucking up to the protagonist's pet. In real life, Heron knows he can't miss the huge news about Skull getting bigger. The troops are reorganizing into units to push back into the fight. On the battlefield, the pet is wrecking all his enemies without any trouble at all, calmly stopping in the arena while he waits for the army to get closer. Pretty much the Demon King's entire vanguard got wiped out in minutes, leaving the enemies weak. Even the protagonist is impressed by his son's skill that saved the day. Full of hate, the boss says he's going to tear his opponent apart with an explosive spear. While his opponent charges up the skill, Big Skull gets ready to use his shield and block again. They both run to meet in the middle and try to win the fight. This orc is using all his strength as he readies the explosive spear. And the moment his strike gets blocked, the explosion will be so huge that Skull will be taken down. But the guy didn't expect the kid to be agile and able to dodge the attack fast. Brutally, Skull takes that chance and smashes his opponent's head. That scene shocks the protagonist's team, who didn't expect such a badass win. The rest of the enemy army is scared to advance now that their commander got humiliated. What's crazy is they start retreating, running off the battlefield. But as they reach the arena, a demon says anyone who runs will be executed. Getting ready to jump back in, the MC realizes this is the real boss of the invasion. In a commanding voice, the beast tells them to stop the enemy advance. The orders are for the enemy units to keep pushing forward non-stop. Luckily, the allies, led by the assassin, come back to protect the castle. This fight looks like it'll never end as more and more monsters show up trying to invade. A mage casts a powerful lightning spell into the arena. That power is so strong it slows down most of the demons coming in. Then the warrior shows up to help, saying lightning won't work on stone. It's impressive how well these soldiers fight when they're working together for something bigger. The Demon King speaks to his dark children and his blood followers. Seeing everyone getting defeated, he says he'll share some of his power with his soldiers. Activating blood magic, it starts taking effect on the fallen orcs. All of a sudden, the soldiers realize the defeated enemies have come back to life. All the progress so far feels like it got thrown in the trash when the orcs get a second life. That makes the blacksmith tense, since it's impossible to do that with humans. Creating his own magic sword, the demon gets ready to slaughter everyone, slamming the ground with full force and whipping up a strong tornado that throws the men back. With just that one attack, a bunch of players get taken out easily. Even so, the beast doesn't stop and keeps trying to wipe out as many enemies as possible. Confidently, the MC says he needs to focus on the Demon King if he wants to win. The duo is finally together, ready to attack the arena boss. Suddenly, the beast notices the pair coming and launches a surprise attack into the arena. Luckily, Skull manages to block it in time, saving the day again. With a powerful leap, the hero charges forward, lining up a clean hit. As he closes in, he activates his crazy blood skill to deal massive damage. Unfortunately, the beast is about to attack, which makes it impossible for the MC to dodge while he's in midair. Getting hit dead on by the demonic tornado, the guy gets thrown back. Luckily, the big skeleton moves in front and stops the magic from wiping out his master. With that opening, the hero charges in, landing a bunch of hits in a row on the big monster's body. But the Demon King is already sick of this fight and is going all out to win. Being really agile, the protagonist barely manages to dodge the impacts, but the boss isn't messing around and winds up an attack strong enough to erase his opponent. The scary part is, the kid can't call his son in time to tank the damage. Just when he was accepting defeat, he's shocked to see the golem show up to take the hit. All because Mr. Slickedback didn't want the glory getting stolen by some newbie player. Using the strength of its axes, the statue smacks the demon. Unfortunately, the golem is weak against magic, which is why it got beaten so easily by the liches. The only good thing is it works really well in close quarters fights like this. To make it even better, Pink comes running in to fight alongside her teammates, landing clean hits on the demon's leg with her blades. Finally, the redhead shows up, apologizing for making her team wait so long. The team, except the assassin, gets hyped when they see their friends. That gives the protagonist a chance to strike back and finally win. The strongest beings in the world are helping the allied army secure victory. Leading the fight, the golem is getting help from soldiers attacking at full speed. Even with all that effort, the Demon King won't back down and still looks far from injured. Putting all its strength into it, the statue tries to hit the enemy, who blocks in time. But using that opening, Pink lands pinpoint strikes on the big monster's body. Luckily, those hits did serious damage, giving the golem a chance to counter. With just one punch, the opponent gets knocked out, giving the MC hope. The assassin figures the demon's protection was broken, but it didn't do huge damage. The worrying part is the statue used all its strength and still couldn't win the clash, and the Demon King isn't stupid and won't get hit a second time by the same attack. Activating a secret spell, the girl starts hunting for weak points to strike. After searching for a while, she finds a vulnerable spot in the enemy's heart. If they hit that spot, they'll be able to deal really big damage easily. Right as the MC was about to give orders to his son, he notices he's already vanished into the fight. The protagonist's subordinates are ordered to help the skeleton break the demon's defense. At top speed, the big skeleton leaps, building momentum to throw a powerful punch into its chest. Even so, it can't fully break it, and the enemy counters, flinging the little guy away. Luckily, he doesn't get knocked out and manages to counterattack with explosions all around the monster's torso. Then the monk and the warrior team up for a coordinated strike, causing another huge explosion. Finally, the army learns the monster's weakness, making the fight easier. Now the orders are to crush the invaders' defense as much as they can. With coordinated attacks, tons of arrows and fireballs are launched at the enemy with precision. Finally, its defense is starting to crack, but it's still far from being beaten. With just one attack, more players get taken out, leaving only a few on the map. In a second round, the golem manages to break the enemy's defense, knocking its sword away. That gives the big skeleton a chance to rush in and slam it with an insanely strong shield bash. The hit was so powerful it split the defense open, exposing the pus ball. Taking point, the hero activates powerful skills and lands a direct hit on the monster's heart. Even after hitting the ball, the thing is tough enough that it doesn't explode easily. That pisses off the Demon King, who threatens to wipe out the protagonist with a single attack. Right then, Pink shows up and drives her blades into Hornhead's back. That gives the protagonist a chance to attack a second time at full power. The explosion is so huge the whole arena fills with dust and debris. The player's team has to struggle hard just to stay on their feet and not get blown back. Finally, the enemy is completely defeated and its heart is destroyed. As the protagonist gets closer, a strange red light starts to appear in the monster's chest. All the soldiers are amazed that the great enemy was defeated after so much effort. The victory finally gets announced, and the main character's achievements are going to be celebrated. After all that, the heroes gather in a conference room. The first step is to put out some news about what happened after the invasion ended. Even though a lot of players got decent rewards, most of them ended up dying in the fight. Out of almost 8,000 participants, only 370 managed to survive to the end. That means if those people were playing to make money, they're in a tough financial spot now. Even so, the blacksmith said other people's money problems aren't his problem. It's known that the giant wanted to invade the castle because the MC stole his horn in the past. But that's considered just a rumor, since the kid helped in a crucial way in the battle. That makes people want to call the protagonist in to talk and find out the truth about it. The weird thing is, the hero vanished off the map as soon as the invasion ended. Somewhere else in the world, the party is walking through the forest while Little Skull wastes time. The kid's son leveled up again after finishing the mission, getting even stronger. Now the party's mission is to look for some so-called witch of the east in the mountains. Her name is really well known among alchemist class players, because you need her to level up. This girl is known for eating worms like instant noodles and turning people into dolls. Since the protagonist needs to leave the castle to level up, getting to the mountains is a good goal for now. They finally realize the barrier the blacksmith put up earlier is gone, letting them pass through. Before continuing toward the goal, the MC wants to stop by his friend's shop and pick up the items he ordered. Now it's time for the party to finish all the castle quests and say goodbye to this place. Since Redhead is an alchemist and needs to meet the witch, they think it's a good idea for her to stick with the party longer. On top of that, the assassin can't leave the party now that everyone knows about the protagonist's achievements, using the excuse that it might be fun to follow the hero on this journey to the east. Once again, the two girls start fighting because of the MC loser. Night falls, and the party is having dinner at the friendly blacksmith's house. The hero has a bunch of items left on the ground by the powerful monsters from the invasion. One of the interesting items is the outfit the Demon King was wearing. However, to use it, the hero needs to reach the demon realm. After some talking, the kid is excited to finally see his armor made from the king's horns. This item is called the Armor of Death, and it looks really cool. The thing is powerful, and that's why it's so hard to get. One problem is that the horn-made sword couldn't be finished for some reason. The blacksmith explains that even after hammering it for days, the final enchantment couldn't be completed. He believes the only way to finish the weapon is with the Dwarven Forge secret. To make it worse, it's already too late to take a trip to the dwarf caves, which means the contract the two of them made can't be completed. Luckily, people know the dwarves are near the eastern mountains, so the MC asks if, when they find the dwarves, the weapon can be completed. Since a lot of items were obtained in the invasion, the blacksmith can guarantee another sword for the hero. After thinking a bit, he realizes finishing the contract is way more interesting economically. Even so, he's going to have to go east anyway, which makes the quest to find the dwarves simple. Deciding to go after the dwarves, the blacksmith says the party has a long journey ahead and needs to rest. The next day, they use a wagon so the trip is calm and safe. All excited, the kid orders everyone to head toward the Cloud Mountains. After leveling up and defeating the Great Demon King in the invasion, the party leaves the castle. They're going to find a witch of the east in the Cloud Mountains. All of that to locate the dwarves and raise Little Skull's level 2. The idea is to finally complete the armor the blacksmith couldn't finish at the forge. The problem is they've got a long journey ahead, and it'll take several real-life days to get there. With luck, they might even manage to reach the 4th class level. After several days of travel, the party stops to rest a bit near the campfire. It's known that these mountain dwarves are a bit aggressive with intruders. At first they were friendly with humans, but the relationship ended after some disputes. Also, elves and dwarves have a really old feud in history. Obviously, these people are hostile toward monsters and orcs, but that doesn't mean they're allies. Unfortunately, this happens because the little guys are super stubborn and don't want to join any group. It's known that near the mountains there's a castle that looks like some kind of economic fortress. Because it's close to the mountains, the people around there are pretty weird and strange. Getting up, the redhead says they've still got a long road ahead, offering potions to her teammates. Finally, after a few more days of traveling, they arrive at the famous Branda Castle. The MC complains he's eaten so much jerky these last few days that it feels like his tongue melted. The first thing he wants to do in this city is go eat at a top-notch restaurant. Everything is really busy around here, and people seem to work really well. Two men are negotiating the trade of a huge amount of stone. That makes the MC realize this city is way more alive than the Tarante Castle from before. This place is also influenced by the Sun Merchants Guild, which is good news. So they don't raise any alarms in the city. The best move is to hide Skull and Pink. First, the protagonist wants to stop by a restaurant and eat while scouting out the streets. When he sees the dish, the kid eats like he's been starving these past few days. All of a sudden, the redhead notices some mysterious writing on the wall. To understand it exactly, she calls the waitress over to the table. Not mincing words, she asks if the girl in front of her is a witch because of the magic symbols on the wall. Since she's an alchemist, she can easily decipher symbols like that. The girl explains she's not a witch, but she's probably already met the famous Mage of the East. They say that when she was younger she went to gather herbs, ran into monsters, and was saved by the witch. And as a way to show gratitude, she wrote those symbols in the restaurant. They say that happened near the Cave of Death, located deep in the mountain. It's pretty easy to figure out who the mountain's real sorceress is, since there aren't a bunch of them walking around the world. The cave entrance is pretty creepy, which makes the group wonder if it's the right place. Finally, the pet duo can show up for the mission. Once again, the little kid is annoyed about having spent hours in the inventory. A woman shows up, noticing that guests have appeared in her cave. She asks what two players with pets are doing there to see her. Finally, the MC explains he has a mission that tells him to find some so-called Witch of the East. Stopping his friend from walking forward, the assassin notices there's a deadly magic barrier. Suddenly, the girl fires blasts in the sorceress's direction. But when she hits the target, she realizes it's just an illusion to trick the team. That makes the sorceress praise the assassin for having good combat instincts. The team finds themselves surrounded by shadows, about to be pulled into a brutal fight. From the ground, armies of skeletons start rising again to brawl. This whole submission thing is already getting really annoying for the protagonist. Hopefully, the redhead knows some way to take out these skeletons all at once, but for some reason, it's impossible to see these things' stats, forcing them to fight with their own hands. With no hope, the assassin thinks they'll be defeated before they can win the battle. Already using her strongest skill, she asks them to cover her path during the cast time. That's exactly what the duo does, pushing toward the skeletons to buy time. Activating it, the bloodsucker starts slicing the skeletons in half with ease. Off in the distance, the healer is chanting magic words to activate spells. With that, several icy patches appear in the arena, freezing the enemy's legs. With that opening, Pink charges in, leaps, and becomes huge in the middle of the fight. Then it cuts down all the opponents with its sharp swords. Next, Skull rushes in with his shield, knocking everyone back with a heavy impact. When the boy finds himself surrounded by enemies, he turns into Supreme Skull and is ready for another round. Throwing powerful punches at the skeletons, he destroys them easily. That surprises the team and even the witch, who wasn't expecting that. Finally, the assassin is ready to activate her strongest skill. With the energy dome around her, the assassin charges the enemies without mercy. But suddenly, everyone on the team gets confused, not understanding what's really happening. That's because, calmly, the girl snaps her fingers and wipes out most of the skeletons without even moving. Even the trees got cut down in the process. That's how strong the power was. With just that one strike, all the skeletons in the area went back to where they belonged. The cool part is that Skull, even after the fight ends, doesn't need to go back to normal size. Stepping in front, the assassin knows the witch isn't physically there, and that all of this is a mirage. Confidently, the mysterious girl says the other girl is pretty bold with her skills, and says that maybe these people can help her when it's all over. They say that inside the cave there's someone from the little skeleton race who stole her heart. Taikan is a super powerful evil creature that normal people can't beat, and as revenge for helping the mages, he stole the witch's heart. Confused, the MC remembers a quest kind of like this, before he got his son. So if the team can beat this monster, the witch will grant them any wish they want. But if the girl is so strong, it's weird she didn't have the strength to beat her own rival. Not patient enough to answer, she just says the entrance is right up ahead and lets them through. The orders are to get the heart back and return to her home in the mountains so they can have whatever wishes they want. All of a sudden, the protagonist realizes he got a mission related to this guy, telling him to defeat him. The boy thinks the witch might find a way for his son to get even stronger, which means this mission basically comes down to helping him become someone more powerful. Somewhere else in the cave, the evil being can smell the intruders. With his axe in hand, he says these people are basically asking to die. He also thinks only idiots would dare disturb his peace. What the boy's wondering is whether he can really trust this mysterious witch. Unfortunately, usually, women like that are evil and tied to dark magic, and they end up being seen as out-of-control killers of the world. Plus, the Witch of the East must be smart if she managed to turn a heart into an ancient weapon. On the other side, Skull is showing off his muscles to his little girlfriend. Apparently, the woman is one of the creators of the Skull race. Finally, the assassin cuts in, saying she thinks something's about to happen any second now. At the entrance, there's a magical lightning barrier that blocks the way. Even with her heart stolen, the girl managed to trap the thief inside the cave. The big question is whether the team will be able to get past this protective magic dome. Luckily, anyone who understands protective magic can disable it. Easily, the redhead does it by charging ice into the area, turning the whole lightning barrier into a huge wall of ice in just a few seconds. Then she sets off an explosion that finally clears the area and opens the way. Going in, the protagonist realizes the catacombs are massive. Looks like they really are in the right place, according to the notification. Suddenly, the area boss is coming up fast. With every step, he cracks the ground and asks who dares disturb his sleep. Honestly, the hero was expecting someone way more intimidating than the guy in front of him, but he managed to steal the heart of a powerful wizard, which means he's really strong. Apparently, the creature is smart and understands the team is here to save the heart. Skull gets hyped to fight and charges in without thinking, swinging. With his shield in hand, he sprints forward to land a clean hit. While the enemy misses his attack, the creature takes the chance to slam him hard with the shield. Right after that, he winds up a super powerful punch, one Taikan definitely wasn't expecting. To end the fight once and for all, he sets off an explosion in the arena that sends debris flying. That's weird, because the MC has never seen his son lose his cool like he just did. Even with the enemy on the ground, Skull doesn't stop hitting. No mercy. But the guy still isn't beaten and blocks the attack with brute strength. He's shocked when he realizes it's the patch race and says the two are brothers. Surprisingly, the fight keeps going in a totally wild brawl. After taking a hard headbutt, Skull gets thrown really far across the arena. Luckily, Patch is getting help from his friendly girlfriend. That pisses off the protagonist, who rushes in wanting payback for what happened to his son. But in the middle of the attack, he gets grabbed by the head and slammed hard into the ground. Seeing the boy she likes getting crushed, the redhead screams. Luckily, he's not dead yet, since his HP didn't drop to 0, so the assassin is going to try to distract the enemy so the MC can get healed. The redhead and her daughter Pink are ready to help with that plan as much as they can. Dashing forward, the girl gets ready to save her best friend. That's honestly a terrible choice, because assassins have low HP. The evil being throws his opponent away, saying it's a pointless attempt. At top speed, the girl rushes past the MC and closes in for a clean strike. Activating Validity, Eliminate aims to cut the opponent's muscles. Stopping on the other side of the arena, she also attacked vital points. Suddenly, the beast shows up and throws an insanely powerful punch at the girl. The impact was so strong it sent her flying into the wall, knocking her out. Yak and his crush were shocked when they saw that. Saving the day, Pink steps in to try to distract the opponent, saving her friend. Once again, the monster asks who she is, dumb enough to charge at someone armed. But when he tries to attack, the girl climbs onto his axe and jumps, taking aim. Fully focused, she rushes in, stabbing her blades into the body of someone from her own race. Hitting back, the man grabs the girl by the leg and slams her into the wall, using her body. Cursing at his opponents, he says he's already starting to get annoyed, ordering everyone to start getting ready to witness terror. With that, the whole cave starts shaking, but the skull guy makes a protective dome. The crazy part is the cave rocks are sticking to the giant's body. It's revealed that this skull guy is also a golem hybrid. His weapon is getting stronger and way more stylish too, coated in stone. In his ultimate version, he says he'll crush his enemies like worms. What's weird is that even though he was winning the fight, the guy used his strongest power. Another thing that stands out is that the giant called the little skull his brother. As the fight starts up again, the MC thinks maybe his son could get that big. Using all his power, he uses the axe to attack his brother. Jumping in front, the assassin pumps everyone up. Luckily, the healer has a potion that boosts attack power in the fight. That's exactly the kind of thing the protagonist could use right now. The duo attacks again with the same old distract and hit plan. Even so, the golem skull thinks it makes no sense, all smug about it. Now moving super fast, the big skull dodges another blow and counters with a shield. Using that opening, the protagonist activates his strongest skills and charges in. The sword's energy is so strong it's radiating, as the MC lands a critical hit. Finally, that strike made the opponent suffer, but he's far from beaten and calls the protagonist insolent. Suddenly, Pink shows up to land another hit and get payback for earlier. Seeing her daughter nail the enemy right in the face, the redhead celebrates. That impact was strong enough to launch the golem's skull into the wall. Using the opening his girlfriend made, Skull moves in with hate in his heart. This time, his brother is scared and asks him to wait. Even so, cruelly, Prime Skull sets off an explosion that completely destroys him. That shocks the protagonist, who didn't expect his son to keep on hitting. The impact is so powerful, it's lighting up the whole cave. On top of that, the MC has to hold onto the ground so he doesn't get blown away. A hole was made in the cave after that energy blast. The rest of the team doesn't understand what's going on until they see the body crystallized in a funny way. The little skull went back to being tiny, like nothing had happened. The protagonist celebrates that what his son did was totally badass. In the middle of the rubble, the assassin finds the witch's heart to complete the quest. Already tired of this place, the hero wants to get out of here as fast as possible. After a while walking, they reach the witch's hidden house. Going inside the place that looks like a fairy tale, nobody is found. It looks more like a living room full of potions. The candle is lit, even though there's no sign of anyone. Finally, Pink points at something that scares the whole team all at once. A witch doll is on the table, with a hole where the heart should be. Heron steps forward and tries to put the item back. Some time passes, and unfortunately nothing happens to the doll. When suddenly, spells start getting fired off in the room. Reappearing, the witch couldn't believe the heroes managed to bring her heart back. That offends the protagonist, who gets praised for the good work. So now it's the girl's turn to do her part of the promise and grant a wish. Cleverly, she knows it has to do with the little skull and his evolution. In a meeting room, we find out there are ancient weapons known as dark giants that can become gods. When the girl admits she's one of them, the assassin says that sounds like a pretty arrogant claim, and she gets annoyed when the girl makes fun of her social situation. Back to the point, the witch says finding the 12 subordinates is important, but there's a bigger problem. The truth is there are 2 ancient enemies who also want to become gods. Worst of all, Taikan was considered the weakest of those evil beings, and the redhead doesn't think that's good news, considering all the trouble they had in the cave. Luckily, it's known the team can find 12 allies who can help Dark evolve. On top of that, this is the first clue that if they manage to level up Kavira, he'll become a god, and since the MC is the boy's master, his path will be the compass to the answers. Finally, the protagonist realizes his next goal is to find the mountain dwarves. No matter where the girl looks on the map, the dwarves' location doesn't show up. That's not very player-friendly, because it makes this place really hard to find, which proves just how unique the mountain dwarves' abilities are. In this world, every piece of gear has a rank that goes from normal to mythic. Since there's very little info about dwarves in the world, their gear is at least rare. That's why it's so hard to find these guys, because they're so skilled. Basically, these kinds of people are hidden NPCs with special perks. After a long trip, the wagon stops in front of a peak. Even so, the witch is sure this is the right place to find those little guys. The next step is simply jumping off this mountain. Freaked out, the redhead thinks they'll all go to heaven if they fall from that height. But the girl is guiding them to where the village is, and she's not going to decide for the team what they're going to do. The assassin thinks this is all a plan by the girl to take the team down. After thinking for a bit, the boy moves forward with a horse, wanting to find this village. Everyone panics, thinking the kid has a death wish. The wagon flies through the air, and everyone has to hold on so they don't fall. If the assassin dies and loses her XP and items, she'll go after the protagonist and get revenge. The drop down the mountain is really long and deadly for any player. All of a sudden, they all stop on top of some weird clouds. Apparently, this is the secret place where the dwarves hide. An invisible road was created in the middle of the mountain so players wouldn't find it easily. With a snap of the fingers, now people can see the real path. All excited, the protagonist moves forward down the road. Looks like the road leads to the sky, where those little guys must live. It's explained that people think these little guys are underground beings, but in reality, it's totally different. After some conflict with the elves and humans, the only place they could be is above the clouds. After a few hours walking, they finally find the city in the skies. When he enters the place, the protagonist gets an achievement and a lot of XP. Impressively, the city is fully functional and has dirt roads. The problem is that the people here seem to see elves and humans as foreigners, and it'll definitely be a huge mess if they get into a fight in this place. Coming closer, a bearded guy notices the team is from the surface and asks what they want here. It's explained that the blacksmith sent the team to finish a quest in this place, but this dwarf thinks Fance is greedy and only cares about money. And because of that, he has no intention of giving their skills to humans, and he gets ready for a fight at any moment with the protagonist's team. Suddenly, an army of armed little men quickly surrounds the wagon. Scared, the protagonist says he's not here to fight, but the assassin grabs her blade, annoying the bearded guy. Luckily, the witch says she's friends with these people to calm things down. Stories about the girl's heart being stolen have already reached even the skies, so she explains she was saved by these people and brought them here as a favor. Finally, they ask if the great blacksmith of this city, Eros, is still alive. The team's doubt is whether they can really trust this bearded dwarf. It's explained that this blacksmith used to make weapons for humans when the city was still on the ground. The old man is bitter now, because he used to really like the race, and he'll probably only accept this request if the terms are acceptable. The redhead asks why the bearded guy called the witch by a funny name. Arriving at the house, the man is probably sleeping right now after thanking him for showing them the place. The knight suddenly shows up in the area, making the bearded guy think that the blacksmith really will help these people when he sees the pet. Even so, he believes the terms will be really hard for the group to complete. Knocking on the door, a man with a hammer asks who it is. Seeing that nobody answers again, the assassin suggests breaking the door down. Knowing her friend, the witch opens it without asking permission. The old man is surprised, not understanding what's going on with the intruders barging into his house. Looking closely around the house, the protagonist notices everything's a mess. Out of patience, the man realizes they're asking him to finish someone's weapon, someone he didn't like. Setting it on the table, he realizes he's holding a blade of death in his hands. Because it demands a lot of magical power, any small mistake will cause the blade's creator to be consumed, and the blacksmith probably did the best he could within his human abilities. Luckily, the man can handle it and finish the job, but he's pretty sick. It's explained that his energy is running out and his enthusiasm is already gone. Straight to the point, the old man says he could work if he could get some medicine for his problems. The medicine the man is talking about is getting a beer that would lift his spirits. Annoyed, the man explains that ever since he moved to the heavens, it's been hard to get a good beer. It's said that alcohol is like an elixir for these little bearded guys. Drooling, the man says he wants as much of that medicine as he can get. However, the boy wants to talk it over with the team first, saying it took days to get to this place and going back again would be a waste of time. The redhead agrees, but the assassin suggests asking for a favor. Remembering the nerd, the hero thinks he could bring the item here. In real life, he thinks it'd be a good idea to message money. Using the in-game phone, he calls his friend, who picks up quickly. If he isn't busy right now, he wanted to ask a favor, politely. Like it's no big deal, he mentions a secret city that players can't easily access. Explaining the route, the hero says how to get to the dwarves' Cloud City. Sending a location to his friend, he suggests they form a party right now. Returning to the place, he says the beer will get to the old man soon. Seeing that the blacksmith gets along really well with the skeletons, the MC gets jealous. Finally, the witch asks if they can stay at her friend's house until the sword is ready. A few days go by while the team is staying in the city. Finally, the dwarves go crazy when they see their beloved beer has arrived. The protagonist shows up and gets his old merchant friend's attention. Unfortunately, he managed to drop a few barrels jumping off the mountain, but he still saved most of them. Everyone shows up excited, announcing that the master blacksmith's drink has arrived. That drives the man crazy, making the MC think this is a drinking problem. Finally, the old man is pumped to start the Blade of Death project. The way the old man works is with a hammer in one hand and the drink in the other. You can tell the man is working completely under the influence right now, which makes the man think that if he fails to build his sword, he'd defeat him without mercy. But the redhead says she thinks the witch will be responsible for that, since she's the one who brought these humans. Strangely, the girl has been staring out the window for a few hours. After looking at the city, she asks if her friend is still being bothered by someone. Back at the forge, the lazy guy hasn't finished the work and already wants to stop for today. When asked why, the bald guy says there's no reason to provoke the item. Coming back from a trip, the nerd says there are lots of fascinating things in the city. The only problem is there are a lot of weird things polluting the sky, like lightning, but the bearded guy believes this must be caused by some phoenix blonian. This is a raid bull that lived in this region, but lost its nest when the dwarves invaded. Since then, it's been attacking this city until the invaders get out. As long as there's no sound or lights, this being messes with the area. To make everything worse, these cursed clouds are pretty powerful in this region. It's said that in this war, the little guys lost hundreds of their kind. Suddenly, they start hearing a roar in the skies. But while the city is being taken over, the old man asks for silence. All the streets are being completely filled with these clouds. On top of that, The house and the wooden structures start falling apart. Even with a huge earthquake, the old man is drinking and not caring about anything. Apparently, the sound gets farther and farther away as more time passes. Finally, it left, and the team can relax. From outside the house, he realizes the city is completely destroyed after the storm. To make it worse, even the carriage and the horse were carried off far away. This must happen so often that these little guys aren't surprised anymore. But the beast doesn't show up on a fixed schedule, which usually keeps people safe. And the storm doesn't always last just a little while like it does now. It usually sticks around for half a day, which makes the little guys' work endless and never finished. The only thing they can do is hope it doesn't show up in their town again. The annoying part is that if it shows up one more time, the protagonist will be stuck in this boring town. Since the game runs in real time, being stuck here would be a huge loss of money. With the plan in mind, he wants to know where to find this evil being. For that, he'll want to take out the enemy to put an end to these unfair attacks. Laughing a lot, the old man thinks the team won't be able to do it because the boss is powerful. The redhead says her boyfriend has done well in everything he's done in life, and that's confidence. Apparently the clouds made their temporary nest after losing their original one. The problem is, he can't see up there in normal ways. Luckily, or not, there's an item that can help the team get there. Somewhere in his house, there was an object a dwarf warrior used. After tossing a bunch of gear at the boys, he finds a magic boot. That outfit let a dwarf walk freely on water and clouds. As a reward for defeating the evil cloud, the item can be kept. The cloud boots were made for a dwarf warrior together with elves in the past. Accepting the mission, the hero wants to defeat the enemy as soon as possible. With his full team, he thinks they'll easily wipe out this raid enemy. The card is full again, and people head out in a group toward the goal. Luckily, it's a huge relief that the blacksmith is good at fixing things, and their roles are considered engineers and repairers too. The boy catches the girl's curiosity for always staring at the map. In his view, the dwarves' city is a gold mine, saying he'll make a fortune like never before by supplying drinks to those guys. Going to finish his objective, he says goodbye to his friend on the journey, and explains that he's not very good at combat and probably won't help much in fights. To help out, he'll leave all kinds of potions in the wagon for the crew to use as they want. His plan is to buy as much booze as he can and sell it in the city in the skies. Since they're really rich people, the price and profit margin are going to be sky high. Being a born merchant, he says business is his thing. This man figured out how to make money off the simplest everyday stuff. Unfortunately, the protagonist's nature isn't to make money doing boring work like that, and he believes that if he keeps working hard, he'll have his place in the sun too. After a good while traveling on the clouds, the redhead finds everything fascinating, because it feels like they're really walking on top of the air masses. Suddenly, the hero stops the wagon and points to a sign with an X. Apparently, from now on, the team will have to walk to the spot. Since they're not far from the top, it'll be easy to go on foot the rest of the way. Unfortunately, that's what the team does, resting while climbing the cloud mountain, managing to find the place where the evil being is hiding. Seeing it up close, the hero is shocked by how big it is. Apparently, it would take a team of at least 50 people to take it down. Since it was the protagonist's decision, the choice of what to do is his too. When he says he doesn't want his friends to die, the little skull guy runs ahead. That annoys the protagonist because it's going to draw attention for no reason. With his shield on fire, the kid gets ready to land a powerful attack. Even though his blast was strong, it didn't do anything to the black cloud. In fact, it woke the creature up and it gets pissed off. The little one looks like nothing next to this huge mass of evil air. Quickly, to get revenge, it fires up a fireball and aims at its opponent. To save their son, the team runs in to get in the way. Unfortunately, the lava burst gets thrown at the kid's shield generation that's defending. The healer luckily throws strength potions so her team can do well. Helping the team even more, the witch starts praying. From now on, the defense of the attack duo was doubled in the fight. Facing the cloudbird, maybe they've got a chance to win. At this moment, Skull transforms into his prime and gets ready to counterattack, easily managing to turn the stream of fire into a tornado back at it. With his magic boots, the hero jumps and throws himself into the front of the fight. Charging up his sword, he triggers the crazy hurricane in the air, managing to land a clean lava and fire hit on the enemy, causing a huge explosion that lights up the whole sky and the arena. The explosion is massive and manages to deal some solid damage to the evil cloud. Now's the perfect time for the team to step in and hit with maximum power. Taking a leap of faith, the bag uses its energized dagger. Running toward the enemy, it gets ready to slice the cloud in half, managing to land several attacks in a row on the massive black air. Together with the protagonist, it causes a really badass fire explosion. Finally, it jumps away trying to avoid any counterattack from the creature. Above all, it activates its hunting skill and bursts into an explosion in the arena. Holding on so she doesn't get blown away, the redhead notices even assassins have ultimate abilities. What's impressive is that the girl managed to land a spot-on counterattack. Even so, the beast's health is really low compared to the start. Furious, it forms an energy ball and watches its opponents. Flying away, the cloudbird throws out a blast of fire. Dodging, the protagonist thinks his opponent is pretty tough. In the middle of the battle, the Skull Guy is doing his job protecting everyone while absorbing the fire. Using his son as a shield, the hero manages to avoid fatal damage. While jumping around the arenas, the assassin tells her friends to do something already. That's when Little Pink shows up, running in miniature form, transforming into her prime version with sharp blades in the air, aiming right at the bird's eye to deal damage. Getting thrown away, the Skull Guy gets worried about his little girlfriend. Luckily, the hit Pink landed made the beast suffer a lot from blindness. Still, Skull wasn't happy seeing his woman getting smacked around. Seeing that Prime Skull is pissed, the witch stays calm. In the distance, he's activating his berserker skill along with the wrath of the gods. Throwing a powerful punch, the warrior is trying to take down his enemy alone. Charging up his fists, he gets ready to throw an attack that'll make the bird regret it. Surprisingly, Skull activates his skill called Nuclear Fists. When it connects with the head, it makes a movie-worthy explosion, managing to make the bird roar in pain. Taking advantage of the explosion, the assassin moves in closer. Meanwhile, with his giant hands, Skull keeps punching, causing multiple explosions one after another with maximum force. The impact is so huge it sends the pair of friends flying away. Even so, the witch believes the boy isn't as strong as expected. That's because his powers still haven't truly been unlocked. After a cloud of smoke clears, the team tries to figure out what really happened in the arena. Amid the ashes, Prime Skull is alive. Without looking back, the beast looks insanely cool. At the end of the fight, several treasure chests become available. Congratulating his son, he says they now need to collect the rewards. There are so many items that just one chest is enough to fill the team's carriage. Even with only half his power available, Skull managed to defeat the enemy with just a few hits. That makes the witch think the boy is going to become even stronger than she expected. Back in the city, they get cheered on excitedly by the dwarves. A big ceremony happens in the city, because the team is considered heroes. To profit even more, the MC offers the materials he got from the fight to sell. Since they already split some of the items among the team, and there were still a bunch left to sell, the bearded guy is happy that he finally doesn't have to worry about the evil clouds anymore, saying that now they can finally live in peace. Annoyed, the assassin thinks that only happened because they managed to get rid of the cloud's nest. To make things even better, the hero even managed to set up a beer supply line for the dwarves. They say a day like this deserves a celebration, dwarf style. That night, everyone is getting ready for a booze-soaked party. Singers hype up the whole place with their songs. It's the first time the redhead has seen these little guys play string instruments. That's explained by the fact that dwarves love alcohol and getting totally wasted. They say the whole little folk society is grateful to the team for what they did. On top of that, the merchant is arranging endless drinks for the city. With that, the weapon will be finished in a few days by the blacksmith. But the MC is shocked when he hears about the Dwarf King. Talking with his friend, the hero jokes that now he's going to be way busier. The funny thing is, none of the drinks are being delivered for free, and actually, Nerd is making a lot of money. A drink trade route has been set up between the city and the boy. He gets an exclusive cut of all the drinks sold in this place. And his plan is to build trust with the dwarves so he can finally create a monopoly. Proving he's a businessman, he says he'll give all the drinks away for free at a celebration like this. And he's only doing this because he wants the dwarves' trust in you to go up. Even though the trust the protagonist has already earned was enough to get the trade route working. Another interesting thing is that the Dwarf King is planning to visit and show his gratitude. He's one of the oldest little guys who built the city with his own hands. Around here, he's also known as the Wise King with absolute power. At that moment, the person they were talking about arrives. With that, all the dwarves gather up in a respectful formation. It's announced that the Great King has arrived and everyone kneels. The team and their gravediggers are surprised by the man's appearance. In his golden armor, the wise one gives off an aura. The clueless one thinks the old man looks like a butcher with knives. With a scowl, the man walks up to the protagonist. The protagonist gets embarrassed, thinking he did something wrong on the mission. Pretty tense, everyone stays silent, waiting to see what's going to be said. Even the assassin starts thinking they're in trouble right now. But, laughing, the old man says they're not. Hugging them, he says he's so grateful he could kiss them for the rest of their lives. Because of that, the dwarves raise a toast in honor of his majesty. Providing drinks and defeating the cloud made the boy instantly famous. Looks like these little guys' trust is already going up. To top it all off, the man invites the protagonist to sit at the same table.